Actually, I
No
did
one
feel
is.
like I
They're hard. They're
did,
really
yeah.
hard.
I forget how difficult they are on the other side.
When there's no practice at all, you don't know what's coming up, so you have to recall this knowledge so fast.
Yeah, you just have to bring forth knowledge that you never really knew you had.
I just love it when you bring up a topic that I've researched for a video like that week.
Yes,
It feels
yeah.
so good. And it never happens, but it happened like once, and it feels so good.
I try and keep them moderately topical. You know.
Yeah.
Dutch Grand Prix is Dutch Grand Prix winners. You know.
Topical, just brutally difficult.
Although, yeah, I should have looked at the Dutch Grand Prix winners at some point before, because Jesus Christ.
And I did 10 different ones. Even if I just did 10, 3 of them would be Verstappen.
Yeah, I was going to say
You
most
still
of
have to
them.
go to the 80s anyway.
Yeah, you'd still have to think about who won the 1984 Dutch Grand Prix. I don't know. I don't even know when I would have been.
What?
Well, I was trying to think, I wouldn't have been alive, but I'm trying to think if my parents had even, like, met. I'm going that far back. I'm going, like, I'm not even just thinking about
mine
if I was born.
85.
But
My parents were, like, early 20s.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Your parents were in a pub somewhere going, "Oh, I'm never going to have kids. I hate them." I don't know. I don't know what your parents are like. I've never met them. But, you know. Anyway, I'm ending the stream.
See you soon.
Enjoy the Dutch Grand Prix. We'll see you very soon.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Let me grab my chat very quickly. Apologies. We were crash happying. And I wasn't expecting to be on the crash happy this week. It was set to be not me because I was picking up some stuff this morning. But that's fine. We're done now. Let me grab this. Let me grab that. Are we live? Can I see the stream? Yes. Lovely. Shout out to myself. Oh, is it Avril or a viral? Not sure. Hello, Josh. I can do Josh Swain. I've met him before. There we go. How are we doing? Let me quickly grab my stream because it is raining in Zandvoort. Woo, woo, woo. Set off the alarms. Here are your guys' predictions. Maybe they come true now. Looked like they weren't going to come true because of everything that was happening this weekend and the fact that the sprint was pretty dull, let's face it. But now we've got a little bit of mixed weather conditions. Got a lot of drivers rushing to get their cars onto the grid. Liam Lawson went off at the penultimate corner in his Red Bull on the way to the grid. It's all happening. It's all gone very silly here in Zandvoort all of a sudden. Max Verstappen wins. See, now we're getting the Max Verstappen win belief. Maybe you guys knew something that I didn't. Maybe you guys have been doing some big rain dances. Oh, thank you, Walther, by the way, for resubscribing over on Twitch. Massively appreciate that. If you do want to help out the channel, you can send in some super chats. You can send in some subscriptions. That's absolutely top draw stuff. But it is now going to be a slippery Zandvoort Grand Prix, which does open the door for Max Verstappen to win this one a little bit more, I think. A lot of the time when it came to Max Verstappen, and you guys were predicting that he would be there, a 7-month streak. That is insane. Thank you so much. We were talking about yesterday the fact that Max Verstappen would probably be looking at, I don't know, 5th place at best, considering where the Red Bull car is, how the pace is playing out this weekend. Now, a wet race start, a little bit of chaos, probably some strategy to play out. Very nice indeed. What are the starting tyres? At the moment, I'd imagine intermediates. It is still raining a little bit. We've still got 22 minutes until the start of the Grand Prix. In fact, I'll pop up the qualifying board as well for you guys so you can see who is starting where. We haven't got confirmation of tyres as of yet, as you can see by the fact that this tyres column currently has lots of question marks. I was going to say exclamation marks, question marks that we do not know. But I would imagine intermediate tyres are going on to quite a lot of the cars at the moment. We've got the full gazebos up on the grid. It is raining that much at Zandvoort that the teams have got their gazebos out. We've got him over the cars, trying to keep the cars as dry as possible in the next 20 minutes. Looking at the weather radar, there's spitter spatters of rain that are going to continue coming over towards the Zandvoort region as well. This could get very tasty indeed. Let's get your predictions in, though, in the chat right now. You got 5 minutes or so before we see the national anthem take place. I want to see your predictions. Will it dry up or heavier rain? At the moment, it's your best guess. I was just talking to Mr. V about this, and the fact that the rain forecast just an hour ago was 20% chance of rain. And now it's absolutely pouring down. It is 100% chance of rain right now. Like, it is absolutely coming down in Zandvoort. And that is going to mix up everything that we've got for this Grand Prix. Alonso P1, I'm loving it. Kimi wins are coming through in the chat. Lando wins are coming through. Would be very nice if Lando could just win it, you know, a win from pole position. The last 5 Grand Prix here in Zandvoort, which are the 5 we've had in the most recent generation of car, have all been won from pole position. It is still trickling. The rain hasn't fully stopped. There's lots of umbrellas up. There's still various gazebos and things. You can see just a spatter of rain here and there. But it's certainly not coming down as hard as it was around 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, it was absolutely hammering it down with rain. Lance Stroll takes his first victory. Hey, he's good in the wet. He's good in the wet from that one time he did well in the wet in Turkey. And he's done okay in the wet. But usually he just sort of optimizes the strategy. Sometimes Stroll just gambles and gets it right. Does feel like he's quite lucky when it comes to the rain, but I suppose you make your own luck. You make your own luck. When's the national anthem? We are 3 minutes away from the national anthem. It happens 16 minutes before the formation lap, which is a weird stat that I only know because I make silly videos about this sport. But I know that the national anthem happens exactly 16 minutes before the formation lap is set to get underway. Lance Stroll gets his first victory. Thank you for my encyclopedic knowledge. Thank you so much for the super chat, Sally. Massively appreciate that. Not sure it's quite encyclopedic yet. I'm not too bad at sort of random bits of trivia, I suppose. If you ask me about anything from sort of the 80s and backwards, though, my mind does start to go. I know the champions. That's about it. That's about it. First time watching a European race? Come on in, sit down, welcome. It's lovely to have you with us. We do get fans from all over the place. I do love the fact that Formula One just like wakes up the world. Like even when like the Japanese Grand Prix is a prime example. There is not a single day of the year that I wake up at 2 a.m. apart from for the Japanese Grand Prix. That is the only time I would ever even fathom getting up at that time. I will delay flights. I will get trains later if needs be for other events. But Formula One waits for no one. You have to get up when it's happening. Luckily, the European races for me are at pretty decent times right now. You'll see me a little more tired as we get into the latter stages of the season once again. But lovely to see all of you in the chat. Wow, India, Australia, we're getting lots. It'd be interesting to see if we've got somebody from every country that each Formula One driver is from. I feel like it would be very impressive. I feel like we've got British people in here. That knocks off, you know, your Norris, your Russell, your Hamilton, of course. Have we got an Italian in here for Kimi Antonelli? Have we got a Monegasque in the chat for Charles Leclerc? I think would be maybe the trickiest one on the entire grid, to be honest with you. I reckon we've got some French people in for Gasly and Ocon. Have we got a Canadian in for Lance Stroll? Anyone from Canada for Lance Stroll? Sub to Frog. Is that just your channel? You're called Zesty Air. What is Sub to Frog? Senor Frogs. Did anyone watch the video from Burnt Ship about the Formula E Evo sessions? That was very good. German living in Austria. You tick off a couple, right? That's Nico Hulkenberg ticked off. And you can also have Red Bull. They're Austrian based. So you got that. And Audi, Mercedes. Yeah, of course. There you go. Sean Hudson is apparently from Monaco. Edward from Thailand. Yeah, I forgot about Alex Albon, of course. We do need a Thai. We need some Thai fans for Alex Albon. Indian for Arvid. True. Although he races under the British flag. It's kind of one of those things, isn't it? It's like, do you count their like nationality as where they were born? Or do you count it as like where they race for? Because like Nico Rosberg, for instance, who is literally on the screen right now, you would say is a German driver. But his dad, Keke Rosberg, was Finnish. And literally they raced under different flags because Nico had his license from Germany. So he was a German Formula One driver, despite his dad also winning the championship being a Formula One driver for Finland. So it's like, there's kind of that balance to it as well. Is Nico Rosberg German? Is he Finnish? Is he kind of both? You know? Fully from Nepal. Ooh. Yeah, that's fair. Not sure we'll get has there ever been a driver from Nepal? I don't think so. Racking my brain for random Formula One knowledge. Definitely cannot name any Nepalese drivers. Poland, Kubica. Yeah, of course. Think he's the only one, right? We got like a Venezuelan in for Pastor Maldonado. Nico Rosberg gets a hello from Max Verstappen, and that is all. The drivers are preparing. Just trying to see. The rain has kind of stopped. The drivers are making their way to the front of the grid. We are a couple of minutes. They are all there for the national anthem as of now. Making their way back from the national anthem, I should say, sorry. So, we'll have to wait and see. The umbrellas are gone, though. Okay, so the Sky Sports team have put away their umbrellas for now. Don't know how wet the track will be, though. Is it still intermediate tyres? Do we see people gamble on some mediums, some softs? Be awkward, though. Like, the soft compound tyre would be better, obviously. You know, it's a slipperier track, so you want that little bit more grip, and the soft compound tyres do give it to you. But Nico Rosberg saying, looks a little bit drier in places. You can see sort of spatters, though. You can see a few areas of dry track. You can see a few areas of damp track, even just on the start-finish straight that they're walking on right now. Sky Sports fake rain. I'm not sure they faked the rain, considering everybody in the stands is currently wearing a poncho. But let's run you through, actually, the grid as we have it. We haven't discussed it because we've been just staring at the sky. It's one of those weird things as a Formula One fan you do, isn't it? Not ever do I really think about what's happening in the weather in the Netherlands until we get to a Sunday in Zandvoort. But GP and Max Verstappen there having a quick discussion in front of their Red Bull car. They have put the tents away, or the gazebos away too, so the gazebo has been taken off by the teams. I think because, you know, it is a little bit fiddly to get rid of. So makes sense that they move it before the Grand Prix is set to get started. But wow, we've got a real mix of nationalities now. I'm looking back at the chat. That is insane. Thank you so much for joining us. Massively appreciate it. Watching from the Philippines, from India, from Spain. Couple of Spanish drivers on the grid, obviously. Carlos Sainz on the grid until 2029, I think, with the Williams contract that he signed. Multi-year contract. Lando Norris doesn't know whether it's going to be wet or dry, talking to Sky Sports. Just saying he's not sure who's going to be where. Lando Norris starting from pole position. Doesn't seem 100% certain what's going to happen in the next few minutes in terms of his tyres. Needs to get back to the car. We've got George Russell starting from second place, started from pole position in the sprint yesterday, went on to win the sprint. It was looking like it was looking like George was kind of building some momentum into the second half of the season. We know that he was 59 points adrift of Kimi Antonelli at the top of the championship, now down to 56, but needs a bigger jump in the next few races, really, if he's going to close that gap. So George Russell in second spot. We'll be hoping that it's a first place and hoping that he can get further away from his teammate Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli starts from third place. We see him there with Peter Bonington, his race engineer, preparing for the second half of the season. An opportunity is first Formula One World Championship in his second season in the sport would make him the youngest Formula One World Champion we have ever seen. But we are still a few races away from that. Oscar Piastri starts in fourth place for McLaren. It is Mercedes and McLaren interchanging on the front two rows of the grid. I think Oscar Piastri's kind of going to be locked in fourth place. If you look at the pace Norris, Russell, Antonelli had in comparison, does feel like they're the top two cars, but it does also feel like Oscar Piastri is the fourth quickest driver from that bunch. Bushwhacked, moving from YouTube to Twitch. Hey, we're live everywhere. We're live YouTube, Twitch, all over the place. We're also short form on YouTube as well, and sometimes on TikTok when I can get it to work, but I did not get it to work today. TikTok is very temperamental as a streaming platform. Lewis Hamilton starts in fifth place for Ferrari. It's a third row lockout for the Ferrari duo. Charles Leclerc beside him. So it is Hamilton and Leclerc, fifth and sixth. I mean, maybe the rain puts them in a better position. We know that Ferrari had a little bit more running in the rain during during testing right at the beginning of the season. We haven't seen too much wet weather running since then, to be honest. We've had a few practice sessions, a qualifying here and there that's been in slightly slippery conditions. Maybe that Ferrari car, we know it's incredibly good off the line. If it can use that to its advantage in the mixed conditions as well, could be very good for them. And then Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson, a Red Bull lockout on the fourth row of the grid. Verstappen starts seventh. Liam Lawson starts in eighth place. Little bit of damage done to Liam Lawson's car on his way to the grid, though. Did go a touch wide at turn 13. There is gravel there. We saw it with Kimi Antonelli during sprint qualifying, you might remember. Went wide at turn 13, went through the gravel, did a little bit of damage to his floor. Is that the same on Liam Lawson's car? Obviously, we can't know. We can only speculate, but possibly a little bit of damage done to the underside of his Red Bull car. Of course, the Red Bull car he's only taking for one weekend. Isaac Hadjar missing out on this one, which is a shame, actually, because Isaac Hadjar picked up his first and only podium in Formula One last season here at the Dutch Grand Prix. Gabriel Bortoleto and Arvid Lindblad start inside of the point-scoring places. Bortoleto best of the rest at the moment. Arvid Lindblad has also looked very, very quick this weekend. Just good seasons from both of those guys, really. Bortoleto and Lindblad really showing what they can do at the moment inside of their cars. And the Racing Bull, probably the quickest midfield car. The Audi has its moments here and there, and Bortoleto getting the most out of it. Just outside of the point-scoring places, we've got Pierre Gasly in 11th position. He'll be looking to move forwards, has scored points a lot over the course of the season so far. Has Pierre Gasly in his fight for sort of best of the rest with Liam Lawson in the Drivers' Championship. Yuki Tsunoda starts in 12th place. His one-off race for Red Bull or Racing Bulls this season after being dropped at the end of last year. Can he do anything from 12th place? Are we expecting Yuki Tsunoda to maybe sneak a point-scoring position? Be lovely to see it happen. Nico Hülkenberg is 13th overall. Not the best of qualifyings from the German driver, but had a very awkward sprint race where he had to come to a stop, then come back out again. So Hülkenberg in a tough time at the moment inside of that Audi car. The reliability just not there for him. Franco Colapinto not looking anywhere close to the pace of those other midfield cars this weekend. He starts 14th. Then we get to the back of the pack. Esteban Ocon, best of those, in 15th place. Alex Albon also joined him in Q2 yesterday. Those two drivers being the ones that escaped away from dropping out in Q1. Carlos Sainz starts in 17th position alongside his compatriot Fernando Alonso in in 18th. Lance Stroll starts in 19th place. Ollie Behrman in 20th. And the two Cadillac cars in 21st and 22nd position behind. That is your starting grid as we are now 6 minutes away from the start of the Dutch Grand Prix. Still no confirmation on tyres as of yet. I'm sort of looking as much as I can. As soon as we see any of the action out on track, I'm weaving between people to see if I can just see any kind of indication on the tyre blankets as to who is starting on what, but very tricky to see at the moment. Soft compound tyres might be the play here, I think. It's just dried up a little bit more. There's no rain coming down anymore. We've got the gazebos fully gone from across the starting grid. So I think maybe soft compound tyres, medium compound tyres are the standard sort of starting race tyre, of course. So maybe it does get dry enough that everybody just goes for medium tyres. Love to see a little bit of rain, maybe 10, 15 laps in there. We have got 72 laps of the Dutch Grand Prix ahead of us. There is Lando Norris, who is starting on pole position, the number 1 on his car. A number 1 for him yesterday in qualifying. Seeing a few little predictions coming in. I see a Kimi, Lando, George. Okay. Kimi Antonelli coming from 3rd to win it, ahead of his teammate. Can you get a shout out? You can indeed, Hayden. No worries. Bit of a shame. I hope for a shower. Could still happen. There's a lot of rain clouds in the air. As I say, like, literally an hour ago, me and Mr. V checked the rain radar, and it said only 20% chance in Zandvoort. And then it absolutely tipped it down. So that 20% turned into 100% and absolutely poured down with rain in Zandvoort. So just makes you think, Lance Stroll, P9? Okay. 10 positions gained would be quite the way forward. Here we go. We have the title card rolling. That means we are 5 minutes away from the start here. We should get confirmation of tyres. As I was about to say it, it pops up on the screen. It is medium tyres for the front 4, soft compound tyres on Lewis Hamilton, and a scrubbed set of soft compound tyres on Charles Leclerc. Maybe didn't have a fresh set of softs left over from qualifying and sprint qualifying. Max Verstappen on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. We have Liam Lawson on a scrubbed set, Bortoletto and Lindblad the same. So soft compound tyres for 5th place down to 10th. Feels like the play, but the medium compound tyres on the front 4. Oh my goodness. 3 consecutive streams. Wow, thank you so much. I wonder how many, I don't know if anyone's kept track of how many consecutive streams they've made it to, but massively appreciate you stepping in for your 3rd. I'd hate to think, or crazy to think how many some of the guys who have been here since 2021 when I started these streams, I want to say. So could have quite a tally up there. Pierre Gasly starts in 11th place. He's on the mediums, but then there is soft compound tyres again for Tsunoda and Hülkenberg. Mediums on Colapinto and Ocon. Then it's soft compound tyres from Albon, Sainz, Alonso, Stroll and Behrman. The 2 Cadillac cars starting on the hard compound tyre. They're going to really struggle to get the temperature into those hard compound tyres. I suppose, they're not really racing for much, but the hard compound tyres is a big gamble, especially when it's slippery out on track. How much rain? What's the chance? I don't even know if you can look at the weather radar, really, because, as I say, it only said 20% earlier on, and then it rained just before the Grand Prix was set to get started. We'll have to wait and see. I think we're just going to have to play it by eye. Probably send one of the engineers down the road like they used to do. I don't know if they still do that. They literally, so this is like a thing that they used to do in Formula 1, is they'd send a member of the team sort of downwind from the Formula 1 track, just like a few miles, and they would let the team know if it started raining or not. Do they still do that in Formula 1? There must be like a more modern, there must be like a better, more modern way of doing that, right? But is there a better way than just sending one of the team members a couple of miles down the road? Here we go. Maybe Stroll continues. It's a very mixed bag. Lots of people see rain and then automatically think of Lance Stroll, which is mad, isn't it? And it's like it's like a dichotomy. Either you think of like Lance Stroll pole position in the rain, you're like, he's brilliant, or you think of like Brazil where he binned it in the gravel and then got himself stuck in the gravel traps. Like, that was also in the rain. So he does have, he has ups and downs in the rain, does Lance Stroll. But it's weird how Lance Stroll does have this connection with rain in Formula One fans' heads. Checked the weather, no rain, but it's cloudy. There you go. No rain, but as I say, it's been up and down this weekend. We had rain literally just before we were about to get started. And then we had rain, just after the sprint yesterday as well. So will we see some more rain later? Track temperature still at 30 degrees, yeah. Air temperature 17.9 degrees Celsius. So it is going to dry up pretty quickly. All of that rain that we saw about 20 minutes ago. Be interesting to see if anybody gambles at the end of this formation lap, right? If you think some rain might be on the way, I don't know. It's starting on the slicks, isn't it? Then it's like, who will go when? Thank you for all the new follows as well. Should say just before we get underway. Lots of new subscriptions and followers coming in free. Some highlighted messages. P9 for Nico Hulkenberg in one of the predictions there. Lots of new follows over on Twitch. Is it raining or no? Not at the moment. But massively appreciate all of the support over on Twitch. And of course on YouTube. You can watch on YouTube also. It's all there for you. Every single competitive session, we are live. And we discuss the insanity of the Formula One grid. Of course we do. Every single time around. Here we are then with the formation lap. Just going to double check everything is suited and booted and ready to go. In fact, let me give the live stream a little refresh. Always loves a little refresh just before we start. Usually works out best for it. As I say, top 4 drivers starting on the medium compound tyre. Let's head to the full detailed race board so that you guys can see the cars coming around for the formation lap. There we go. I like that the Ferraris have gone for it with the soft compound tyre, though. We saw Charles Leclerc on the soft compound tyre during the sprint race yesterday, and it worked out pretty well for him. He was able to get the better of Lando Norris, nabbed a second place in the sprint, did Charles Leclerc. But this is where the big points are available. Is it me or does the radio icon for Yuki still at the 2025 picture? It probably is. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if the guys over at Multiviewer have access to the new picture of Yuki Tsunoda. Is there even a new picture of Yuki Tsunoda? Probably is on like the official Formula One website. They've probably got him in a booth at some point over the weekend and snapped a picture of him in the Racing Bulls suit. Formation lap is coming towards a close. Lando Norris just making his way around the final couple of corners. No big incidents to point out as of yet. Normally there's a little bit of chaos on the formation lap when it is damp out on track. There's going to be areas where it is slipperier. There's areas where it's fully dried. The car's just weaving, trying to find where that grip lies on this track. Lando Norris slots into P1 ahead of George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, Russell's teammate behind, and Piastri locking in the top 4. Then the 2 Ferraris, the 2 Red Bulls coming around as well. Liam Lawson under a lot of pressure here to prove what he couldn't in 2025. Was given 2 races in a Red Bull car last year. Felt very harsh on Liam Lawson when he was dropped. But he's now got a one-off Grand Prix in a Red Bull car once again. Yuki Tsunoda taking his place at Racing Bulls down in 12th place has just come to a stop. Alonso and Stroll take their spots for Aston Martin. Behrman in between them and the two Cadillac cars. And it is Sergio Perez peels into the pits. There we go. And green flag will wave once Valtteri Bottas comes to a stop. The blue lights across the grid. They will rev up their engines, and then 5 red lights separate us from the start of the Dutch Grand Prix, the final Dutch Grand Prix, and it's lights out. Here we go then. Lando Norris has to come across. Oscar Piastri tries to get past George Russell. Russell with a really bad start has opened the door to his teammate Kimi Antonelli, and Antonelli's round the outside of George Russell into second place. The Ferrari of Charles Leclerc also making moves forward as Piastri drops down a position. He gets kind of caught up behind George Russell. That opens the door to Charles Leclerc to move into 4th place. Hamilton stays 6th for now. The two Red Bulls going side by side. Verstappen and Lawson fighting for position. They're still side by side as they make their way through the middle part of the lap. Verstappen just points his nose in front towards the back end of the grid as well. Gabriel Bortoleto with a disaster start has opened the door for Pierre Gasly. Gasly's jumped up into 9th place. Tsunoda also up a position into 11th. Lindblad is in 10th. So the Racing Bulls cars holding on to where they were really. Gasly able to jump up a couple of places. And Gabriel Bortoleto, the biggest loser there, down to 13th. He's down 4 positions from the start. Alex Albon's jumped in front of Esteban Ocon. And Carlos Sainz is also down 3 positions with Alonso, Stroll and Behrman getting past the Spaniard. Here we go. Oh, goodness me. It's still a little bit dusty in places and a little bit of rain just coming. Oh! And there's something big in the background there. A huge, huge spin towards the back end of the pack, and that's definitely going to be safety car and probably even a red flag. Is it Max Verstappen? It's Max Verstappen! A big spin in the background for Max Verstappen. He hits the wall at turn 14. Someone's been collected with it too. Max Verstappen says he's okay over the radio. That is Max Verstappen on the final Dutch Grand Prix in front of the Zandvoort fans. And he is out of this one. Red flag is away. I thought it was going to be a red flag, to be honest with you. There's a big shunt from Max Verstappen in the background. Love to see a replay of it. Just caught a glimpse of it as we were watching Lando Norris come across the start-finish line. Does he just get on the... Oh, he gets on the paint. Gets on the paint on the inside. Oh, and then just sends himself skidding off into the barriers on the left-hand side of the track. Liam Lawson does a really good job to evade it. And then Pierre Gasly has to dive out of his... Oh, my goodness me. There's a big, big shunt from Max Verstappen. He's just going really down into the curve of turn 14. Gets onto the paint on the inside of the track. And Max Verstappen then, as soon as he loses the rear end of the car, it is all done and dusted. Oh. It's very impressive that no one else was collected with it, to be honest. Max Verstappen hits the wall on the left-hand side of the track, then has enough momentum to bounce off of it, hit the wall on the right-hand side of the track as well. Everybody making their way back past once again. Red flags will mean everybody comes back into the pits and the race fully stops. Max Verstappen is out of the car, though. And Verstappen into the medical car. And that's going to be the end of Max Verstappen's Dutch Grand Prix. He's won here 3 times since its return to the calendar. Has been brilliant in front of his home fans. And it's a really tough pill to swallow for Max Verstappen. This one, his final home Grand Prix. It's off the calendar for 2027. Doesn't look likely to come back anytime soon. That is a real shame. A real shame. So Lawson then jumps up into 7th place. Yuki Tsunoda was caught in the chaos of it and dropped a position to Franco Colapinto. Gasly also did his evasive maneuvers, and Gasly dropped a place behind Arvid Lindblad. So Lindblad's now up into 8th. Gasly is 9th, Colapinto 10th, and Yuki Tsunoda 11th. Gabriel Bortoleto, I think, may have been collected by some kind of debris. He looked very slow at points and didn't look 100% certain. He's now down in 18th position, 9 places down on where he started. Hulkenberg's up into 12th. Everybody back into the pits, though. Pit exit is now closed. Cars come to a complete stop for a red flag. They basically go into the pit lane in order. So Lando Norris has come to a stop right at the end of the pit lane and stays near the red light in front. A lot of the drivers not opting to get out of the cars, though. I think a lot of drivers and teams thinking that the red flag won't be too long. Kimi Antonelli still sitting inside of his Mercedes car. And the marshals are very much... Bortoleto did it. Yeah, did lose it. Bortoleto, a full 360 spin. That's where he lost a lot of his time. Insane that Bortoleto was able to catch that and continue on, to be honest. So we see a replay of the start. 2 Red Bulls were side by side with one another. George Russell gets an absolutely torrid start in his Mercedes, opens the door for Kimi Antonelli to go around the outside. And unfortunately for Piastri, he just kind of gets stuck behind George Russell, and Piastri then has nothing. Oh, and Lewis Hamilton actually comes across, and that's where Verstappen nearly lost a position to Lawson. It's because he was actually alongside Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton has to evade Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri as they were sort of fighting for position. Then Verstappen pushed out onto the grass. And that's when Liam Lawson was still side by side with his teammate up through turn 3. Verstappen held on to 7th place, though, and, well, then got to turn 14 and threw it all away once again. But that is... Charles Leclerc finds the tiniest of gaps to get past Oscar Piastri. Lewis Hamilton does really well to evade hitting his teammate's rear left wheel. Goodness me. So Max Verstappen is out of this Grand Prix. Just to confirm, red flags are out. That's why we're waiting for things to get going once again. We're just looking at the replays of the starts. And Russell got a really bad getaway. That then also cost Oscar Piastri, who was behind him. Because Oscar Piastri had to change where he was headed. And by the time he made that decision to change where he was going, Charles Leclerc had already jumped in front of him. Liam Lawson, you got to give it to Lawson. He really does go for it in the battle with Verstappen. I think there's even a bump of tyres there between the 2 Red Bull cars as they fight through turn 3. Ballsy move from Liam Lawson in a car that he's literally jumped into this weekend. Then Max Verstappen's afternoon came to a very swift end at the turn 14 on lap 1. I think he just gets onto the paint, or possibly even, yeah, maybe a little bit of curb, a little bit of paint. One or the other, just still a little bit slippery from the rain that we had prior to the start of the event. Hits the barrier on the left-hand side of the track. Pierre Gasly also nearly loses it in turn 14, sees the impact and has to go into evasive maneuvers. Gasly does really well not to collect into the side of Max Verstappen, and Liam Lawson also sees it happen right in front of him. The drivers' reaction times, it just shows you again how ridiculous the reaction times of these drivers are. Gabriel Bortoleto behind us, a full 360 spin. What happens to Gabby there? Goes around, gets just a little bit, yeah, just loses it. Just slips around, spins all the way. So lucky Gabriel Bortoleto that he isn't collected by anybody else or hits a wall. That was a spin of all spins from Gabriel Bortoleto. Master of spinning. Wow. Ooh, and there is a little bit of damage to the side of Lewis Hamilton's car. Just a little bit of the floor looking a bit out of shape. Of course, all the teams now stopped in the pit lane. Liam Lawson has jumped out of his Red Bull car. I think the majority of drivers now have jumped out of their machinery. Did look like we were going to get going fairly quickly once again, but Max Verstappen's car taking a few seconds longer to get off of the track. George Russell dropped down a position behind Kimi Antonelli. He's now got an opportunity to have a little think about it. We likely will get another standing start here, so it's all up for grabs once again as we get 5 red lights one more time. We haven't had confirmation as of yet, I don't think. Let me just check the radio messages for myself. Where's race control at? Nothing from race control as of yet as to when or how we will get back underway with the racing. But there we are. Max Verstappen is all good, I should say. Once again, Max Verstappen has jumped in the medical car, is back into the grid, and is more than happy inside of the Red Bull garage. Well, not more than happy. He's okay. He's not got any damage to himself. He's probably a little bit frustrated to not still be running around at the Dutch Grand Prix. He's now making his way back to the Red Bull motorhome behind the grid there, and they then close the barrier so we cannot see Max Verstappen anymore. But Max Verstappen is all good. Crashed out at turn 14, has returned to the Red Bull pit lane, and I don't imagine we'll see much of Max Verstappen, to be honest with you, for the rest of this afternoon. Be interesting to see if they do get any kind of interview with Max Verstappen. I doubt that will happen, though, if I'm honest with you. He's not going to be overly happy with that one, I don't imagine. Yeah, Dutch fans still in high spirits, but will be a little bit frustrated that their man Max Verstappen is out of the race, especially considering this is the final Dutch Grand Prix for a little while. We know it's not on the grid for next season, or probably the season after that, and there's no confirmation as to if or when it will be back on the Formula One calendar in the future. Let's get to some thank yous, though. Some new subscriptions coming in. Liz, thank you. Johannes, thank you. Akio, thank you for following on Twitch as well. Dude Bro Maximus followed on Twitch. Wilhelm_Robert followed on Twitch too. Massively appreciate that. Looking at that replay from Liam Lawson's perspective once again, it just as soon as the rear end goes and Lawson straight away as he makes his way down towards turn 1. Lawson asking if Max Verstappen is okay. What happened? Bortoletto does a big spin as well. Completely unsights Hulkenberg, who is his teammate, coming around behind him. And then Albon also fighting with Ocon. And actually, yeah, Alex Albon has a good point. Esteban Ocon overtook as they were making their way past Max Verstappen. And Albon says on the radio, my goodness me, Hulkenberg is so lucky. Hulkenberg's reactions are insane. Oh my god. Is a plume of smoke. You cannot see anything. Hulkenberg has no idea whether to go left or right. So close to T-boning his teammate. Wow, that is really good driving from Nico Hulkenberg, it has to be said. The reaction time from him. I mean, he's got a sort of half commit to left already, but he then kind of comes through the smoke. You see Gabriel Bortoletto's car there, and he weaves to the left so quickly. Nico Hulkenberg. I mean, we know Max Verstappen is an expert at spinning. That was expert reaction times from Nico Hulkenberg there. And Alex Albon is now, I think, discussing with the Williams team that incident and talking about the fact that Esteban Ocon, yes, did jump in front of him, but it was under very awkward conditions. You look at Max Verstappen's car is literally coming to a stop. It's still moving, Max Verstappen's car, as Alex Albon is making his way past. Albon has to slow to not hit into Albon ahead. And Bortoletto and Hulkenberg, that whole thing's happening in front of him too. So Albon's got a lot to deal with. Esteban Ocon literally just past Alex Albon as the crash is happening. Goodness. Here we go then. They're looking at that onboard from Max Verstappen. Yeah, he's just a little bit too far to the right. It is just getting on the paint, I think, from Max Verstappen. Just underestimates how wet that paint is on the inside of the track, maybe. He lost the 24 hours of Nürburgring and now this. I think Max Verstappen, like, he's still having a fairly good life. I wouldn't worry about him too much. He's all right. What happened to the track map? The track map is there, but there is no cars out on track at the moment. We are waiting. They have confirmed the resumption order. Let's have a little look. Where is Alex Albon versus Esteban Ocon? So we've got car number 1. It's going to be first. That's Lando Norris still going to be there. It's going to be Kimi and then Russell, of course. Charles Leclerc 4th. Piastri 5th. Hamilton 6th. So the order is still correct there. Lawson, car 30. Will start just behind. Car 41. So that's Lindblad. Then 10, Gasly. 43. 43 is Tsunoda for this weekend, right? No, 43 is Colapinto. Sorry. So Colapinto is going to be behind Gasly, which is the way it is. Tsunoda then behind in 22. 27 is Nico Hulkenberg. 23 ahead of 31. So they are going to put Alex Albon back in front of Esteban Ocon. So Alex Albon is going to be given that position back, or has been given that position back by the stewards. 23 ahead of 31 in the resumption order. Then we've got Fernando Alonso and Ollie Behrman, as it is right now. Lance Stroll, 18 behind 5. So Gabriel Bortoletto is going to be ahead of Lance Stroll? Yeah, Gabriel Bortoletto is ahead of Lance Stroll in the running order that the has just been released. Then we have 55, Carlos Sainz. Yep. And then the 2 Cadillac cars, 77 and then 11. So we've got a couple of swaps compared to what you can see on your screens. Alex Albon and Esteban Ocon are going to swap back. So Ocon got that overtake done once the stewards are kind of deemed the race to have stopped effectively. So Alex Albon was deemed to be ahead of Esteban Ocon, probably when they crossed the start-finish line or when they crossed the timing line that they took it from. So effectively what happens is the stewards say, right, red flag, and we're going to take the position of all the cars at this timing line at this moment. So whoever came across this timing line, first, second, third, they're going to restart the race first, second, third. And that's why Ocon and Albon will swap places, and Bortoletto and Stroll will swap places in terms of where they are. So we're under red flag conditions still. Well, technically, track's cleared now, so the red flag will come to a close very soon. But no further investigation, though, from Esteban Ocon in turn 15. They're just going to review, and the order is going to swap back around once again. But we haven't got a start time yet. The cars still sitting in the pit lane. The drivers still not in the cars. There is Fernando Alonso sitting along the pit lane. Pierre Gasly having a little discussion with Flavio Briatore. What's going to happen here? Gasly sitting in a fairly good position. He's in 9th spot. Of course, now we've had a little delay to this race, so the weather gods could go in one way or another. But the ponchos are off for a lot of the fans in the stands. Track will have had a few more minutes to dry up, so the slick tyres will certainly be the choice once again. But it's just whether or not, if this little bit of a delay might then bring us into another weather window. We know it's rained on and off throughout the entire weekend in Zandvoort, and it rained just after the sprint race yesterday. Rained just before the Grand Prix today. Will we see another spatter of rain at some point, and will this stop mean that Formula One has to race in the wet conditions? Race control will resume at 3 33. So we've got 10 minutes before the start of or the restart, I should say, of the Grand Prix. Again, just a reminder, Esteban Ocon and Alex Albon will swap positions, and Lance Stroll and Gabriel Bortoleto will stop positions. They will. Everyone else will be in the order that they are seen in your screens, and everyone will slot into the grid positions that they have in front of them there. So race control will resume. Drivers are starting to prepare now. You can see Charles Leclerc and Liam Lawson just reattaching their radios and putting in their earpieces, ready to get set up. There's Lance Stroll as well for Aston Martin. He will have to give way to Gabriel Bortoleto behind, will Lance Stroll. Why did they stop? Max Verstappen span into the wall at turn 14. It was a big shunt and a red flag flown. Needed a little bit of time just to, double check the barriers. It was a heavy shunt for Max Verstappen. And then secondarily also needed to just make sure that they could get all of the debris off the track. There was carbon fiber all over the place, and you really don't want carbon fiber to be on the exit of turn 14, especially if the drivers are accelerating towards the straight. If they then burst a tire there, it could be pretty horrendous indeed. And there we go. Yuki Tsunoda fans in the comments. Love it. There's a lot of Yuki Tsunoda fans hoping that he can do something a bit special. Unfortunately, he's lost out of position to Franco Colapinto in all of that chaos. He was behind his teammate Lindblad, but Lindblad was able to get the jump on Pierre Gasly. He's up into 8th, and Tsunoda just dropped down to 11th. Colapinto was able to get the better of him. I do feel like the Racing Bulls car is the quicker of the two, though. Looking at the sprint race yesterday, I know that Tsunoda was trapped actually behind Colapinto in the sprint race yesterday, but we do now have the added benefit of there being slightly different tyres on cars and slightly different strategy decisions that will play out over the next, 70 laps that we have got left of this Grand Prix. Not a lot will have changed in terms of tyres for a lot of the cars. In fact, I can see most of the tyres staying the same. There's no real point in changing, considering you've only done one real racing lap on those tyres. And then, of course, the end lap after the red flag was waved. A little bit of an adjustment being made to Arvid Lindblad's Racing Bulls car there. Laurent McKees actually making his way back to the Red Bull hospitality. I'd imagine just maybe going to check on Max Verstappen before the start of this race gets underway once again. Liam Lawson, his only driver left standing. It's crazy, isn't it? Who would have had that the only Red Bull of this weekend that has the opportunity to score points would have been Liam Lawson? If you'd have said that on Wednesday, people would have thought you were absolutely mental. And there we are. Liam Lawson, the sole running Red Bull in this one. Isaac Hadjar with a wrist injury, and Max Verstappen sending his car into the barriers. I'm just seeing an onboard from Bortoleto. He's gets a really bad start, does Bortoleto. Something's got to be wrong with that Audi car, it feels like, for Gabriel Bortoleto. He's all over the shop on that first lap and then also loses it in turn 14. How Gabriel Bortoleto is even still in this race is pretty insane. But he is, and the Brazilian will continue on, and he'll continue on from 17th place on the grid. Obviously started best of the rest, Bortoleto. He qualified in 9th yesterday, so dropping all the way down to 17th place probably wasn't what he'd planned for. Let's see what he can do inside of that Audi car from that position. But we haven't actually got a race control confirmation yet as to... I assume it's going to be a standing start. We have not had any kind of messaging come through on the race control. And you can see on your screens literally just above my head here, the race control messages as they come through. So the stewards have deemed that turn 14, the incident involving Lindblad, be under investigation. Possible yellow flag infringement from him. But the track is now clear. The race will resume at 3:33, so we're just over 5 minutes away from that. Bortoleto had a really bad start. Really bad start, yeah. Dropped backwards pretty substantially, you could say. Literally best of the rest to 17th is not where you want to be. Just a quick reminder for those of you that maybe are joining us now. So red flag for Max Verstappen, who hit the wall at turn 14. Big shunt in his Red Bull car is okay. Has returned to Red Bull hospitality. He's all good. But unfortunately out of the Grand Prix. And because of that red flag, we've had all 21 cars left in the Grand Prix in the pits for a good sort of 15, 20 minutes or so. Safety car lights are on. Oh, we might actually get underway behind the safety car, possibly. Safety car lights are being used. Four minutes left. And actually a quick reminder as well that Alex Albon will retake 13th place. So Ocon and Albon will swap positions as they deemed Ocon to get that overtake done after the red flag had sort of dropped effectively, or after the timing line that they were taking. And same for Gabriel Bortoleto and Lance Stroll. They will swap positions. So Bortoleto will jump up into 17th. Lance Stroll will drop to 18th. Because again, that overtake from Lance Stroll, that gaining of position, was deemed to be after the timing line that they took as the timing line for the restarts. So a little bit of a swap around for those four drivers in there. Oh, and a possible penalty. Oh, no, sorry, it's just been investigated. Just popped up again, so I thought it might be. But investigation for Arvid Lindblad. Although Albon was under investigation, Ocon the same, and they managed to not. So Lindblad is under investigation for yellow flag infringement, and so is Franco Colapinto. So we'll see what happens with those two. No rain as of yet during the race. We did see rain sort of 20 minutes before the Grand Prix was set to get underway. Has completely dried up now, though. But as we have seen, the rain can just automatically come out of nowhere. Is the race finished? It is not finished. Don't you worry. They had a red flag. We'll be back underway racing in just a couple of minutes' time. But Max Verstappen, the sole retiree from the race, which is kind of impressive, to be honest. Like, Max Verstappen hitting the wall at such a heavy hit into the wall as well. I assumed it just felt like he was going to collect somebody else. He spun, hit the wall on the left-hand side of the track on the exit of turn 14, then hit the wall on the right-hand side of the track as well. Lots of drivers with evasive maneuvers around Max Verstappen's Red Bull car. Then you also had Gabriel Bortoleto spin to a full 360, and it's insane that he wasn't hit by somebody as well. Like Hulkenberg with some incredible evasive maneuvers inside of his Audi car to not just take the both Audi drivers out of the Grand Prix. But the drivers then came into the pits. We've been waiting for 20 minutes or so. We are going to be back underway in just a minute's time here in Zandvoort. Lando Norris still leads. He thought he'd done the job. Came away from P1, got through turn 1, still in the lead of the Grand Prix, carried it through the first lap. Looked like he was all set to start his first stint and have a little bit of time to think about his strategy for the rest of the Grand Prix, but now has to do it all over again. We do have Lando Norris starting on pole position. We then have Kimi Antonelli starting beside him. After he started third, he was able to jump a position in front of his teammate. George Russell down a place from the start of the grid. The start of the race. He dropped a position from the grid, and Antonelli up into second. Russell down to third. Charles Leclerc also up a couple of places into fourth spot. Was able to just benefit from George Russell's slow start, to get in front of Piastri and Hamilton. Charles Leclerc then in 4th, Piastri 5th, Hamilton 6th. Liam Lawson, the one remaining Red Bull driver, is in 7th place. And then a little bit of chaos in the midfield. Obviously, Gabriel Bortoleto falling back heavily means that Lindblad is now sitting best of the rest in 8th place. Gasly has also jumped up a couple of places since the start. He's in 9th. Colapinto with a really solid first lap jumps up 4 positions into 10th place. And Yuki Tsunoda is still just outside of the point scoring positions. He's in 11th. The cars are now making their way back out on track. Here we go. Lando Norris. Round turn 1 he comes. Antonelli just behind him. And we are going to get a standing start once again. So we saw around a lap's worth of racing, just under a lap's worth of racing for the majority of the drivers here. Second lap to get back to the pit lane. This is technically the 3rd lap of the race. It will go on to the ticker. We still have a long way to go in this Dutch Grand Prix. It is much drier now. That is very true. Looking a lot drier than it was previously. But we do have race control confirming a standing start. You can just see above my head here. Standing start confirms. FIA deciding that we are in a safe enough condition to do so. Is there more rain on the way though? Even if you get a good start, could there be another twist in the tail? We have just waited half an hour or so and given the weather gods another half an hour to sweep some rain towards the circuit. When or will it come? Oh. Aston Martin has been given a red at the end of the pit lane. So that was Lance Stroll who was stopped at the end of the pit lane. Oh, this could be interesting. So Stroll, Sainz, Bottas and Perez were actually stopped at the end of the pit lane. Don't know why that would have happened. Lando Norris is then going to be stationary for so much longer. Lance Stroll is literally only coming around turn 6 now. And Ollie Behrman is actually going really slowly towards turn 11. What's happened to Ollie Behrman's car? He's pulled to the right-hand side of the track and Ollie Behrman is out. Ollie Behrman's Haas has come to a stop. I was wondering what was happening there. He was going very slowly. Ollie Behrman on the radio. And his engine is off. And everything else has turned off. His electrical system's gone. His engine's gone. And Ollie Behrman is going to be the 2nd retirement of this Dutch Grand Prix. Are we going to get another safety lap, maybe, behind the safety car? The marshals are going to have to run out and get Ollie Behrman's car sorted. Gabriel Bortoleto then comes to a stop. Lance Stroll actually not too far behind considering. Stroll and Sainz, Bottas and Perez coming around the final corner. Behrman's car still stationary halfway down the straight between turn 10 and turn 11. Let's see what we can do. Is there going to be a green flag waved? Behrman's car is being moved. They're going to do an extra formation lap. Extra formation lap confirmed. There we go. And they're going to give the cars an opportunity. Really good for Lando Norris in all of this, actually, because the extra formation lap means that they don't have to wait so long now, because they had to wait so long for Bortoleto and Stroll to finally make their way around. But Behrman's Haas has now been cleared. As you can see, it's been rolled across and out of the way. So Ollie Behrman's Haas car is now out of the Grand Prix, but is also out of the way. So we have Ollie Behrman now as our 2nd retirement from the Grand Prix. Lando Norris so really trying to get some temperature in those tires by the looks of things. They must have been very, very cold indeed, because he wants to really get going with this race, and he's absolutely flown away from the rest of the pack. Ollie Behrman's car. Actually, Ollie Behrman did a good job to come to a stop where he did. I didn't realize he came to a stop right beside a little cut in the track there where they could roll the car out easily. Thank you, Ollie. Appreciate it. Getting us back underway fairly swiftly. Sergio Perez then at the back of the pack this time around. Perez coming around turn 9 as Lando Norris now slows down the rest of the pack. Most of the tyres, just the tyres that they started the race on. Can't see, has anyone made a swap? Franco Colapinto actually has made a swap. Is on medium compound tyres, fresh set. So Franco Colapinto decided to change his tyres whilst in the pit lane. Charles Leclerc, I think maybe also. Yeah, Charles Leclerc's changed tyres. Piastri's now on some hards. So there is actually quite a few changes to tyres after the red flags. Albon's on a set of hard compound tyres. Alonso is on a fresh set of softs. Stroll's on a set of softs. Sainz is on a fresh set of softs. Bottas on some hards. Oh, and the brakes of Kimi Antonelli looking very warm indeed. There's a little bit of smoke coming from the front right tyre of Kimi Antonelli there. Let's hope for the championship leader's sake that is nothing to worry about. But let's get this Dutch Grand Prix rolling once again, shall we? Green flag waved. And it is Lando Norris once again. Let's see. Come on, Lando. And we're underway once again here at the Dutch Grand Prix. And Lando Norris has to come across to cover off Kimi Antonelli straight away. Antonelli's going to try and go up the inside of Lando Norris through turn 1. They both go really deep, though. And that's opened the door for George Russell to possibly get in as well. Lando Norris is dropping backwards. He's into second place. Kimi Antonelli takes the lead of the Dutch Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri's under pressure from Charles Leclerc. He's been able to get back up into 4th place as Piastri, but Leclerc not giving up on that position yet. Charles Leclerc, though, has to then slot in behind the McLaren of Oscar Piastri. And Piastri now looking at a move on George Russell. Russell's looking very slow. And Piastri makes a move. What a move. He is in front of George Russell. Russell's afternoon going from bad to worse. It's not looking good at all for George Russell inside the Mercedes. He's now under pressure from Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc dives up the inside. Can George Russell hold on to 4th position? He can just about. Charles Leclerc nearly gets a little bit out of shape. Goodness me. What on earth happened? And a drive-through penalty for Arvid Lindblad for that yellow flag infringement. So it's a drive-through penalty for Arvid Lindblad. But George Russell is looking all over the place. Let's see what Charles Leclerc can do as we make our way around the final couple of corners. And there is Charles Leclerc. Isn't able to close the gap. Piastri's under pressure from George Russell once again. But Piastri's going to hold on to that podium place. So it is Antonelli, the biggest winner of all. Antonelli's up into 1st place. Lando Norris drops down into 2nd. Piastri gains a couple of places up into 3rd. Russell had another terrible start. Drops down to 4th. Charles Leclerc's in 5th now. Hamilton 6th. Lawson holds on to 7th. Nico Hülkenberg had an incredible start in his Audi car, it has to be said, towards the back end. Arvid Lindblad obviously peeling in for that penalty. Hülkenberg now up into 9th place. And Gasly, the only midfield car, still ahead of him. Colapinto still 10th. And Yuki Tsunoda remains 11th where he was before. Albon is ahead of Ocon. Alonso ahead of Bortoleto. Stroll, Sainz, Bottas, Perez still running around. And Arvid Lindblad has indeed come in to do his penalty. And we are seeing everybody coming around. Let's see what I can do in terms of the track map. Unfortunately, not a lot. Track map's just been a bit weird over the last few weeks. I don't know if it's a multi-viewer thing. I know that a lot of the data from Formula 1 has been a bit rubbish because some of the data companies or the data websites that I use to look at the cars after the races have not had the data. So let's have a little look at this Piastri move on George Russell. Russell just caught sleeping, and Oscar Piastri absolutely sends it. Piastri up into third place, and it's now starting to be a bit of a gap, though. Piastri third place is slowing down Russell, Leclerc, and Hamilton. It's very much Antonelli and Norris disappearing up the road together in first and second positions. Piastri, though, on the hard compound tyre will go a lot longer than the cars now behind him, and also the cars ahead of him. We know that... Oh, and the game for McLaren might be for Oscar Piastri to just hold up the pack, and Franco Colapinto now gets a drive-through penalty. I'll tell you what, Yuki Tsunoda fans, I've got some very good news. Franco Colapinto will come in to serve his drive-through penalty now, you'd imagine, and that will mean Yuki Tsunoda moves up into the point scoring places. Oh no, Colapinto decides not to come in this lap. But Colapinto has got a penalty. Will have to come through. A drive-through penalty for Franco Colapinto. Yuki Tsunoda will jump up into the point scoring positions. Antonelli and Russell in very different moods. Now, it's so crazy that George Russell out-qualified Kimi Antonelli, won the sprint race yesterday. It was looking like an opportunity in a weekend where maybe George Russell would be able to get a little bit of a one-up on Kimi Antonelli. And then as the cars have been dealt, in lap 8 of this Grand Prix, Antonelli sits P1 once again. George Russell has fallen down to P4. Colapinto on the radio, box to serve penalty. So Colapinto will come to a stop at the end of this lap. Yuki Tsunoda will inherit that final point scoring position. Arvid Lindblad has also fallen all the way back down to 20th place. Fernando Alonso is in 15th position. Just keeping an eye on him. Is within a second of Bortoleto ahead, although Bortoleto looking a lot more racy than Esteban Ocon, it has to be said. Colapinto does now come into the pits. Will he be still ahead of... Oh no, Lindblad was ahead of him, wasn't he, before Lindblad did his penalty. So Colapinto will fall all the way to the back end of the pack. Lindblad now coming around turn 1. Colapinto will slot in just behind him. So Lindblad and Colapinto have both served their drive-through penalties. So we are lap 9 of this Grand Prix. Lando Norris has just fallen outside of boost range from Kimi Antonelli. Lando Norris on the soft compound tyre, though. Antonelli on the medium. So there was quite a few swapping around of tyres during the red flags. We know that Lando Norris started the race on mediums, swapped to softs when they came in for the red flag conditions. Russell won the sprint. I know. It feels like a long time ago now, but just yesterday, Lando Norris came in third place. Charles Leclerc was second, and George Russell won the sprint. Now it's all changed around. George Russell has dropped all the way down to fourth. His teammate and championship rival Kimi Antonelli leading a race once more and setting the fastest lap whilst we talk about him. So 1:16.5 from Kimi Antonelli does indeed put Lando Norris outside of that boost range from the Mercedes car. Lando Norris is going to need something a little bit special in terms of strategy, you would say, if he's going to get anywhere close to Kimi Antonelli, who's been absolutely electric throughout the 2026 season so far. Piastri is 3.5 seconds adrift of his teammate, 4.5 seconds adrift of the lead. Then Russell another couple of seconds back from that. So George Russell looks an age away from his teammate at this point, and Piastri can just play the team game for McLaren here. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton also closing in on the back of George Russell. Charles Leclerc actually the closest to the car in front from that top 8 that we're seeing. I should say top 7 now, really, because as much as Gasly is best of the rest, he's nowhere close to the pace of the 7 cars in front of him. And here we go. Charles Leclerc has a little look at George Russell once again. And Russell is under pressure from the Ferraris now. Russell's race is just falling apart in front of him. Got caught sleeping by Oscar Piastri. Piastri's now holding him up, and Charles Leclerc looks ready to pounce. Lewis Hamilton then behind in 6th spot. Liam Lawson holding on to 7th. It's kind of where you'd expect Liam Lawson to be, honestly. Anything above 7th would be ridiculous from Liam Lawson this weekend now that Max Verstappen has dropped out of the Grand Prix. Same for Pierre Gasly. He's currently doing the best that he possibly can inside of that Alpine. This is where the strategy comes into play, though. Are they going to do 2 stops, 1 stop? We only saw a couple of laps completed under the red flag, so it's not like that's really changed the strategy of everything. Oh my goodness me. And George Russell goes a little bit wide at turn 1 once more. I think Russell's struggling, if I'm honest. Russell's now over a second behind Oscar Piastri, outside of boost range of the McLaren ahead of him. Oscar Piastri's got a good 4-second gap to Lando Norris ahead anyway. So we are starting to see the cars divide up into little packs. We've got sort of Antonelli and Norris in a pack on their own at the front. Piastri through Hamilton, clumped together. Lawson in a little bit of no man's land on his own in 7th place. And then Gasly's under pressure from Hülkenberg, who's got a couple of seconds gap to Tsunoda. And then Tsunoda's not really under pressure in 10th. So it'd be interesting to see what Racing Bulls do with Yuki Tsunoda now. Got an opportunity at closing that gap to Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly ahead. Alex Albon nearing the points positions. I mean, getting close, yeah. He's in 11th spot. He's sort of benefited from Lindblad and Colapinto picking up penalties for sure. And obviously Max Verstappen crashing out on the first lap of the Grand Prix. But nothing to say that Alex Albon can't sneak a point here in a little bit of the chaos. Would be pretty spectacular if he can, though, to be fair. Come on, Lando. Lando is falling away from Antonelli. Antonelli does just look so good. When he's in clean air this year, Antonelli, he looks on a level above the rest, doesn't he? Just escaping away from Lando Norris a touch. Hopefully, for us, Lando Norris is just holding on to his tyres a little bit and slowing down a 10th or 2. Has a little bit more in the tank, but see what Lando can do from 2nd place. Lost that lead after the 2nd restart. Kimi Antonelli did really well, actually. Kimi Antonelli made up a position at the first start, got past his teammate George Russell, and then made up another position at the 2nd start to get in front of Lando Norris. He's kind of done everything he needed to do to take the lead of this Grand Prix. Can Lindblad recover to points? It would be a hell of a drive from Lindblad if he can, because it's going to be very tough to make his way through the back end of the pack. I know he's managed to get past Sergio Perez and will likely get past Valtteri Bottas as well, but as soon as he needs to start trying to pass Sainz and Stroll and Alonso, it's going to be a very different asking. Antonelli just looking like he's going to hold on to this, isn't he? He's looking very comfortable indeed. George Russell in 4th spot would actually retake 2nd place in the driver's standings. George Russell would leapfrog Lewis Hamilton, but would be back down to 69 points behind Kimi Antonelli. Started the weekend 59 points adrift. It's not going the right way for George Russell, has to be said. Charles Leclerc closing into the back of George Russell and could go from bad to worse for the Mercedes man. Charles Leclerc on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. George Russell on a scrubbed set of mediums. You would think that the medium tyre will hold on a little bit longer, but we saw yesterday the Ferrari's really good on those soft compound tyres through the sprint race. Is Charles Leclerc going to be able to do what he did to Lando Norris yesterday to George Russell today? Lewis Hamilton following his teammate closely and ready to pounce if the opportunity arises for him as well. Liam Lawson just coming around the final corner for Red Bull. It's going to be a long afternoon for Liam Lawson in that Red Bull car, it feels. Down towards turn 1 he goes. He's 5 seconds adrift of Lewis Hamilton ahead, but 6 seconds in front of Pierre Gasly. Lawson's basically going to be driving and soon is not going to be able to see any other cars out on track. Lawson's just going to be driving around all by himself. Kimi's still winning, even after retiring, after 2021. Well, I mean, age is just a number, isn't it? Antonelli, though, 1.9 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. Just looking at the Delta times as well. Lando and Kimi, very similar in terms of lap times in the first and second sectors this time around. And I think just holding at this position effectively. I think both of them are holding back a little bit. Kimi's not going absolutely 100%. Neither is Lando Norris. They're fairly happy to keep it at a couple of seconds gap and wait for strategy to possibly play a major role. Jesus, Charles Leclerc is so close to the back of George Russell, considering this is the kind of laps you'd normally assume drivers slot backwards a little bit and sort of take a couple of laps off to keep their tyres good. But Charles Leclerc absolutely going for it. It's right underneath the rear wing of George Russell. It does feel like Russell just doesn't have the pace of the Ferraris, but unfortunately for Ferrari, it's very tricky to overtake. Lance Stroll comes into the pits. And Lando Norris actually on the radio saying that he is going for it. He's got nothing else in the tank. So, unfortunately for McLaren fans, including myself, was hoping he was holding back a tiny little bit. Maybe just holding on to those tyres, but it seems like that is all they have got. Oscar Piastri now 5 seconds behind his teammate. Oscar Piastri on the hard compound tyre as well. So, Oscar is going to go very long indeed. We have seen Lance Stroll now come in for a set of tyres. Oh my goodness, and Charles Leclerc is so close to the rear end of George Russell. Is he going to have a little look through turn 1? Not this time around. But George Russell, 0.3 of a second, and Charles Leclerc is waiting just for an opportunity. The slightest mistake from George Russell, Charles Leclerc is going to take that position from him. He's going to snap 4th place from the Mercedes driver. Did it once to Lando Norris yesterday. Esteban Ocon now comes into the pits for the Haas team. So we're starting to see a few of the drivers towards the back end of the pack blinking, getting their first proper pit stops in. And Oscar Piastri saying on the radio that the hard compound tyre doesn't really feel that much better than the medium tyre. So we'll see how long Piastri decides to go on those. I did wonder if we were going to see sort of 2-stop versus 1-stop strategies today. Looked like the tyres didn't really fall off too much in the sprint race yesterday. We had Charles Leclerc do the entire sprint on a scrubbed set of soft compound tyres. So it doesn't look too heavy on the tyres, but maybe we'll see some 2-stop still. Oh, and pit lane. George Russell's in. George Russell is in. He's had enough of being hounded by Charles Leclerc. The Mercedes team deciding that that's not the tyre to be on. And George Russell is in and out. I think they're keeping an eye maybe on where Pierre Gasly is. They're trying to get George Russell out in front of the Alpine. I don't think he's going to get there, though. He's not going to get there. Oh, that's really, really bad for George Russell. He's come out behind Nico Hülkenberg. Oh, dear. That's really bad for George Russell. They were definitely trying to pit him in front of Pierre Gasly there. Get him some clean air, but now he's stuck behind an Audi and an Alpine. And that's just going to allow Charles Leclerc to really put the hammer down. Lando Norris being told over the radio, George Russell has pitted from P4. George Russell is desperately going to have to try and get past the Audi and the Alpine. Audi is obviously on a scrubbed set and has gone really long on those soft compound tyres. The fresh hard compound tyre on Mercedes car. And George Russell has been able to get past Nico Hülkenberg as they made their way towards the end of the second sector. Hülkenberg then follows him through turn 11. Piastri boxes. So Piastri does pit. They've decided that Piastri wanted to change, and it's a slow stop for Piastri as well. Oh, God. Oh, and after gaining that position on George Russell, he might now lose it. Here comes George Russell. Down towards turn 1. Piastri's going to be on the inside, of course. They're going to be right side by side with one another, but Piastri is going to lose out. And George Russell gains a position on Piastri. It's a slow stop from the McLaren team. That is so frustrating. Pierre Gasly is also pitted from in front of George Russell. So Russell's now in that clean air that he wanted. Oh, and it was 2 seconds slower, the pit stop from Piastri. That is horrendous from the McLaren team. It's made Oscar Piastri's afternoon a hell of a lot trickier. Made George Russell's afternoon a little easier, but he's still got to worry about Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Let's have a little look at how the lap times compare once George Russell finishes this lap where he's in clean air for the first time. Keep an eye on what happens with Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton as they're now coming around the final couple of corners. Charles Leclerc crosses the start-finish line. There's a 117.5 from Charles Leclerc. Let's look at George Russell, who's just coming around turn 14 now. So Charles Leclerc at 117.5. Where's George Russell? Comes across the start-finish line. 116.1. So it's 1.4 seconds quicker on those fresh tyres, George Russell. Wow. So George Russell really flying. Ferrari can't pit then, because if Ferrari pit, they're just going to come out behind George Russell and likely Oscar Piastri now as well. So George Russell has definitely got the run on the 2 Ferrari cars here. I know Ferrari were probably going to try and overcut maybe. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, though. Piastri on the radio. And Piastri on the radio just being told what I just said. The Ferrari's doing a 17.5. Oscar Piastri needs to be aiming better than that. And to be honest, as long as he holds on to the back of George Russell's Mercedes car, he should be certainly doing in the 116s. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton continue on for Ferrari. Russell and Piastri are actually catching up to the back of Liam Lawson. Be interesting to see what the Red Bull car does in all of this. Antonelli and Norris continue on at the front. Alex Albon now running best of the rest in 8th place after Gasly and Hülkenberg have both pitted. Alonso's up into the point scoring places in 9th. Sainz is 10th. Lindblad is in 11th, but all of those guys yet to have stopped for real. Obviously, they swapped tyres during the red flag period. Gasly, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda have all come in. They're fighting for best of the rest position, really. Looks like the 2-stop strategy is the one for a lot of these cars out there. Antonelli box. Antonelli box, and Lando Norris follows him in. So Mercedes and McLaren now just fighting for the fastest pit stop. It's a little slow from Antonelli, but it's a little slow from Lando Norris as well. Charles Leclerc comes into the pits too for Ferrari. So Charles Leclerc responds. Lewis Hamilton continues. It's a slow stop from Charles Leclerc. Everybody's slow in the pit stops at the moment. Here comes Liam Lawson for the Red Bull team. For his first Grand Prix pit stop for the Red Bull team of the season. It's actually not bad, a 3.3, considering the times we've seen from everyone else. But Russell and Piastri are now a mile ahead of Charles Leclerc. Look at how much quicker Russell and Piastri were on the fresh rubber compared to the rest of that top 4-5. Wow. Russell actually closer to Lando Norris and Kimi Antonelli in all of this. Goodness me. Antonelli now coming around turn 10. Lando Norris following him around. Lewis Hamilton now leading this Grand Prix, as Hamilton has yet to have stopped. Be interesting to see if Hamilton does come in now, if he's going to go for like a 1-stop. Feels like the 2-stop must be the play, though, because the fresh tyres are so much quicker. No, Hamilton continues on. Hamilton then round turn 1 he goes. Continues to lead this Grand Prix. See what his lap time is like, though, compared to Antonelli and Norris once they've done a full flying lap. Antonelli and Norris now coming around turn 1 for their first lap after the pit stops. It's weird, though. Piastri, slow stop now behind Russell, is really hounding George Russell. Is underneath his rear wing. George Russell's not had a good afternoon, as he's sort of had ups and downs. It's been a real roller coaster for George in all of this. He's now effectively running in 3rd place, though, and we'll be looking at how much he can push to try and catch Norris and Antonelli ahead. The gap between Russell and Norris currently 3.3 seconds. Keeping an eye on Antonelli and Norris's lap times once they finish this lap, though. Although Antonelli has just set the fastest first sector of anybody so far. 25.7 from him, although it's not ridiculously slow from Norris or Russell either. They're in the 125.7s also. So comparable lap times through the first sector. Let's see what Antonelli and Norris do as they come across the start-finish line proper, though. They're in the 15s. A 115.8 from Antonelli, a 115.9 from Lando Norris. Goodness me. Okay. Yeah, they're in a slightly different stratosphere, those two. Antonelli and Norris looking very swift compared to the rest of the pack. Liam Lawson currently chasing Alex Albon, trying to overtake the Williams for track position once again. Should be a straightforward overtake for Liam Lawson, but it's his first time racing in that Red Bull. Gets it done, though, and back up into 7th place for Liam Lawson. He's 15 seconds adrift of Charles Leclerc, but let's face it, he's not really racing anybody else. He's just sort of slotting into 7th place, and that's about where the Red Bull's pace is this afternoon. Alex Albon still running in 8th position, but yet to have stopped. Alonso and Sainz the same behind, Lindblad too. And Lewis Hamilton on the radio. Tyres are okay. Tyres are okay, says Lewis Hamilton. Maybe he's going to go for the 1-stop. He is still 4.4 seconds ahead of Kimi Antonelli, although Antonelli gaining by over, well, nearly 2 seconds in that last lap. Hamilton with a 117.7, Antonelli a 116.1. So a second and a half gained from Kimi Antonelli on that last lap. Hamilton needs to push. And oh my goodness me, the midfield scrap is coming into play. Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly getting side by side as Gasly is trying to retake position from Arvid Lindblad ahead. Hülkenberg's trying to be opportunistic in the Audi behind. Going to get a lovely little midfield battle between these cars as they play out. Seems like Albon, Alonso, Sainz, Lindblad going for a very different strategy. Pierre Gasly on the fresher tyres compared to the Racing Bulls car, but can't get the move this time around. And Nico Hülkenberg needs to be a little bit careful that Yuki Tsunoda is behind as well. Everybody's all packing up behind Carlos Sainz, and Lewis Hamilton gets the call on the radio to box. It is a box for Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton felt like he might try and go for a 1-stop, but feels a little bit too early to go for a 1-stop there, and he's now going to go for a weird strategy. Hamilton is into the pits, though, and Antonelli is going to retake the lead of the race. Lando Norris second. Here comes George Russell and Oscar Piastri too. Lovely stop from Ferrari, 2.6 seconds. Charles Leclerc, though, is going to make his way back past his teammate, and Lewis Hamilton's going to come out in the cleanest of air. between Charles Leclerc and Liam Lawson. He's going to have a good chunk of track to run into before he gets anywhere close to his teammate. Albon and Alonso fighting behind. Alonso trying to snag 8th place on the road, and Carlos Sainz desperately holding on from Arvid Lindblad, Gasly, Hülkenberg and Tsunoda behind. There's a real pack of 5 in the midfield that Gabriel Bortoleto is also closing in on. So you're going to have a full pack of 6 in the midfield from Sainz back to Bortoleto, all within touching distance. Pierre Gasly trying his absolute best to get past Arvid Lindblad, but there's just nothing doing, even with the fresher tyres on that Alpine car. Ocon is also leading a little bit of a pack behind. Ocon, Bottas, Stroll and Perez rolling around at the back of the pack. Colapinto then all by himself in 20th place. There's Carlos Sainz once again holding onto that position from Lindblad. Lindblad with the boost, of course, which is keeping Pierre Gasly at bay. Nico Hülkenberg ready and waiting just in case. Nearly managed to get past Gasly a couple of laps ago, but is waiting for another opportunistic moment. Here goes Gasly then on the inside through turn 10. He goes. Can Gasly get in front through turn 11? Lindblad is going to be that. Oh, and I think there's a touch. Lindblad and Gasly possibly come together, and that's allowed Nico Hülkenberg to jump up in front of the Alpine. There was a lot of smoke from Pierre Gasly there, and that Alpine not looking overly good. Is he able to get it all going once again? He is indeed, but Gasly definitely had a touch of some kind. Lindblad now fighting with Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg not holding back. Now he's got the opportunity to go around the outside of turn 1, and Hülkenberg does it. What a move. Hülkenberg is on fire this afternoon. Nico Hülkenberg nearly collected his teammate on lap 1. Absolutely ridiculous maneuver down into turn 1 on lap 27. Hülkenberg is going for it. Lindblad's, though, coming back at him. It's not over yet. Lindblad trying to have a little look. Hülkenberg, though, late on the brakes, and Hülkenberg escapes away from the Racing Bulls car. So now it's Pierre Gasly once again behind Arvid Lindblad, but Hülkenberg has moved up into the point-scoring positions once more. Hülkenberg now trying to get past Carlos Sainz and release himself into the clean air. Carlos Sainz yet to have stopped. Alonso and Lawson the same in front. Sorry, Alonso and Sainz. Can't quite get it done. Trying to set it up, though. Pierre Gasly is going to have another little look at Arvid Lindblad. Hopefully doesn't go as bad as the last time, which opened the door for Nico Hülkenberg to move up 2 positions in just a few corners, really. Hülkenberg benefited from Gasly going deep into turn 11 and then also sweeps around the outside of Lindblad into turn 1. Here comes Gasly towards turn 1 with the Racing Bulls of Arvid Lindblad ahead of him. Has a little look. Is down towards turn 1. Dives up the inside. Can Gasly stick it? They're going to go side by side all the way up to turn 3. And then Gasly has to give up as they make their way through the first sector. It's tricky, and Gasly now is in the clutches. And here comes Yuki Tsunoda from behind. Gasly and Tsunoda, they were teammates at the sister Red Bull team. And Tsunoda now tries to go up the inside of Pierre Gasly. And he's done it. That is an insane move from Yuki Tsunoda, considering it is his first race of the Formula 1 season. And Gasly, every time he tries to get past Lindblad, ends up losing a position to the car behind. Yuki Tsunoda now up into 11th place. And I'd imagine Lindblad is not going to hold his teammate up too much. Gabriel Bortoleto now looking at the back of Pierre Gasly and all of this as well. The midfield battle is getting very spicy indeed, and Pierre Gasly, every time he tries to go 1 step forward, he ends up going 2 steps back. Gasly now down into 13th place. Tsunoda's in 12th. Lindblad still holds on to 11th. Nico Hülkenberg is in 10th. Carlos Sainz holding on to 9th place for now. Fernando Alonso's disappeared up the road, though. He's in 8th place in that Aston Martin car. And Alonso's pace is really good considering he hasn't stopped yet. Here comes Nico Hülkenberg, though. Is he going to be able to do it down towards turn 1 on Carlos Sainz? Yes, he is. Nico Hülkenberg through at turn 1. Carlos Sainz has to settle into 10th place for now. Yuki Tsunoda's also going to be let by his teammate. He is indeed. Tsunoda isn't held off by Lindblad whatsoever, and Tsunoda now moves up into 11th position. Got to remember, Alonso hasn't pitted yet. Carlos Sainz hasn't pitted yet either. So Yuki Tsunoda looking very good for a point-scoring position here. Of course, Alonso is going to go for the one-stop. You'd imagine Carlos Sainz the one-stop strategy as well. So Tsunoda's got a little bit of work to do, but it's not looking too bad at all. And then Lindblad behind is just helping out Yuki Tsunoda by holding Pierre Gasly off. If Gasly goes for another move, is Gasly going to try and get past Lindblad again and this time lose out to Gabriel Bortoleto? It's been the theme of the racing so far. Gasly's gone for a couple of moves on Lindblad and lost out to the driver behind instead. Hulkenberg, the big beneficiary from that, has now looked to escape away from that midfield pack. Hulkenberg now 3 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. It's disappeared up the road in his Audi car. Really, really solid first 30 laps from Nico Hulkenberg, it has to be said. Possibly, like, is he driver of the day, Nico Hulkenberg? It's been brilliant from him so far from those first 30 laps. The way he was able to dart away from his teammate at turn 1 and escape that collision absolutely blew my mind. Like, the reaction times there from Nico Hulkenberg is insane. And then he's put it all together in that Audi car and is now running best of the rest other than Fernando Alonso. But as I say, Fernando Alonso yet to have stopped. And he is gaining on Fernando Alonso by over a second a lap. So he's going to be right underneath the Aston Martin's rear wing sooner rather than later. Oscar Piastri is now putting Charles Leclerc in a position where he might be able to overtake. Charles Leclerc's half a second adrift of Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris has also closed in a little bit on Kimi Antonelli, although Antonelli has just set the fastest first sector of anybody, so he's keeping Lando Norris at bay. But that front two do feel like they're on a different level to everyone else today. George Russell, 7.4 seconds adrift of the top two drivers. Piastri has fallen back a couple of seconds behind Russell, though, and Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc looks like he's got really good pace in that Ferrari, but it's just never really been given the opportunity to properly go for it. Carlos Sainz now pits, by the way. So Carlos Sainz has released Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda up into 10th spot. Lindblad in 11th as well. Gasly's down to 12th. Bortoleto 13th. And Oscar Piastri is under real pressure from Charles Leclerc. Leclerc within a couple of tenths as they go down towards turn 1. And Charles Leclerc doesn't have a look this time around, but it's certainly coming. There's going to be a lunge from Charles Leclerc within the next few laps, you would imagine. Charles Leclerc closing into the back of Oscar Piastri's car. Piastri falling away from George Russell, that top 5. Very good. Lewis Hamilton, actually, we haven't checked in on Hamilton's lap times. I'll tell you what, Lewis Hamilton on the fresh hard compound tyre is properly putting in some laps. A 1:15.666 from Lewis Hamilton. A 1:15.514. He does have the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, the 7-time world champion. Lewis Hamilton's not out of this either. It's gone for a different strategy compared to the rest of the drivers in front of him. But he's absolutely sending that Ferrari as he makes his way around the Zandvoort track. Charles Leclerc then closer to Piastri than he was last time around. We saw Charles Leclerc make a lunging move into turn 1 on one McLaren yesterday. Will he be able to do the same again this time around? Charles Leclerc certainly closer than he was last lap. That rear wing spins around on the Ferrari car. Is he able to have a little look? Not this time around. Piastri holds on to 4th place for now. Lando Norris is getting closer to Kimi Antonelli, although Antonelli is able to rebuttal. It's fastest first sector from Kimi Antonelli, and then Lando Norris actually has just gone a 10th of a second quicker than Kimi Antonelli in that first part of the lap. Starting to see those gaps in the front 5 closing in. I'll tell you what, Lewis Hamilton is also really closing into the back of his teammate. Charles Leclerc might have to get past Oscar Piastri here, or the Ferrari team might actually let Lewis Hamilton by, because Hamilton is going a second a lap quicker than Charles Leclerc. Give Hamilton an opportunity at maybe getting past Oscar Piastri in front. We'll see what Ferrari do there. It's going to be an awkward conversation over the radio between the two Ferrari drivers over the next couple of laps. Oh, and Piastri has a little snap as they go through turn 13. Oh, sorry, that's Lando Norris. Lando Norris with a little snap of oversteer going through turn 13. I was thinking Piastri's got to turn 13 pretty quickly. It was actually Lando Norris has now lost a couple of tenths of a second, is now going to be outside of boost range, Lando Norris. That's really going to cost him when it's coming to the fight with Kimi Antonelli at the front. Here comes Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri, though. Once again, is he going to be able... Is alongside for the first time and is looking to make the move for the first time. He's going to be on the inside of turn 2, but Piastri's going to be there for turn 3. Piastri's going to go right up the inside. Is he going to have enough grip? No, he does not. Charles Leclerc does indeed get that move done. And you wonder whether the Ferrari team had kind of given him a bit of an ultimatum there to go for it now or never, as Lewis Hamilton has now caught up to the back of those two. Charles Leclerc, though, has moved ahead of Oscar Piastri, and Piastri now in the clutches of Lewis Hamilton. Feels like that move is going to be done sooner rather than later. Piastri's going to lose out to both Ferraris, probably in as many laps. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Massively appreciate that coming in. I've closed the chat because I'm an idiot. Doesn't say anything. Just a 3 something. Thank you so much, mate. Appreciate the super chat. Lewis Hamilton closing into the back of Oscar Piastri. Just feels like this is inevitable. Hamilton on the fresher tyres. The Ferrari car does just look quicker than Oscar Piastri this time around. Hamilton closing in. Moves to the inside. Piastri makes a little bit of a lunge, but isn't going to be enough. Hamilton's going to go up the inside of turn 1 and then close the door on Oscar Piastri. And 2 turn 1s later, Oscar Piastri is 2 positions back. Both Ferraris make their way past. Charles Leclerc now in 4th. Hamilton 5th. Piastri's down to 6th position. Piastri just doesn't have the pace of his teammate at the minute in 2026, does he? And really shows. Oscar Piastri trying to come back at Lewis Hamilton, but I feel like is pushing and not going to be able to get much done. Nico Hülkenberg, by the way, I know I said he was lapping about 1 second to 2 seconds a lap quicker than Fernando Alonso, has already caught the back of the Aston Martin. We're now going to see Nico Hülkenberg make a move. No, Fernando Alonso pits. So Hülkenberg just takes 8th place from Fernando Alonso. And Alonso finally pits for the Aston Martin team at about the halfway point of the Grand Prix. Lando Norris actually has gained on Kimi Antonelli once again. Is back within boost margin. Gabriel Bortoleto has pitted for Audi, so he's now dropped backwards. And Pierre Gasly jumps back into 10th place. Arvid Lindblad not able to hold off Gasly as much as he was previously, but Nico Hülkenberg now running best of the rest. Yuki Tsunoda is the second best midfield driver, but is 6.8 seconds behind. You know when I said Nico Hülkenberg should be in the running for like best driver of this Grand Prix? He is flying in that Audi. Like the lap times from Nico Hülkenberg are obscene at this point. Absolutely brilliant from Nico. Hülkenberg continues on. Yuki Tsunoda then is going down towards turn 11, is in 9th place. Pierre Gasly in 10th place for Alpine. 6.2 seconds, the gap between Tsunoda and Gasly. So Lindblad did a really solid job for his teammate for the weekend. Lindblad has just closed down the opportunity for Gasly to really get back at his old teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda looking like he's going to get points. Hülkenberg looking like he's going to get an 8th place finish as well. Just making their way past a few of the back markers. Lando Norris and Kimi Antonelli just make their way through past Alex Albon's Williams car. So everybody from Albon backwards has been lapped as we get to halfway through this Grand Prix, which is a pretty stark difference between the front few cars and the midfield pack, isn't it? What is Alonso doing? Alonso's having a great race as well, to be fair. He's on the one-stop strategy. He's 13th at the moment. He's just come out behind Alex Albon after his pit stop. Alex Albon, 9 laps on those hard compound tyres. Going to be actually a bit of a battle for Alonso to get back past Alex Albon. I imagine he'll try and do it fairly soon while he's on really fresh hard compound tyres. He's just behind Alex Albon as they come through turn 10. Let's keep an eye on Albon and Alonso as they go down towards turn 11. In fact, Alonso's going to go for the move straight away. And Alonso does get past Alex Albon from what I can see. Alex Albon coming back at him. No, Albon closes the door. Very solid. Alonso trying his best, But Albon holding on to 12th for now. Will Alonso be able to get the move done down towards turn 1? Arvid Lindblad pits. So Albon and Alonso both gain a position because of that. Albon now 11th fastest. Alonso, though, going for it. Albon and Alonso side by side through the first couple of corners. And Albon closes it. Albon holds on. 11th place for Alex Albon at the moment. Fernando Alonso is absolutely going for it, though, in the Aston Martin. Knows that there's a weird opportunity at points because Bortoletto's had such a nightmare. Colapinto with penalties. Lindblad with penalties. Kind of opened the door all of a sudden for Albon and Alonso to maybe get into the point scoring places. They'd still need one of the top 10 to have an absolute disaster. It does have to be said, you know. Gasly is 8.5 seconds ahead of Alex Albon at the moment. Will pit again, but will then also be on very much quicker tyres. Fernando Alonso and Alex Albon again side by side. Let's look at this onboard from Fernando Alonso. Just right under the rear wing of the Williams car. Maybe down towards turn 1. He's 0.3 seconds behind as they come out of turn 14. He's going to use all of his boost, you'd imagine. Moves to the inside of the track. Albon then tries to close it. Oh, Fernando Alonso up the inside. Can he get it to stick? Albon trying to go around the outside, but Alonso in up the inside, and Alonso into 11th place for Aston Martin. Black and white flag for Oscar Piastri for driving erratically inside of his McLaren car. Tell you what, George Russell is actually being caught up by Charles Leclerc pretty substantially. Charles Leclerc's 0.4 of a second quicker the last lap is now just about a second behind George Russell. Russell, who thought he's probably dealt with Charles Leclerc and all the headaches that he was causing him earlier on, he's back once again. Hamilton then 1.8 seconds behind as well on a slightly different strategy. I think Hamilton just slowing down a touch to hold onto his tyres a little longer. Norris and Antonelli just in a league of their own, the front two. Norris 0.7 seconds behind Kimi Antonelli, the Italian, looking for another win here in Zandvoort to get the second half of the season going for him. It was a brilliant first half of the year for Kimi Antonelli. Came into the summer break leading the championship by 50 points. He's going to elongate that lead at the championship. Goodness me. Lando Norris closing in, trying his best to get back. Every single Grand Prix that we've seen at Zandvoort since it returned to the calendar has been won from pole position. Kimi Antonelli, the driver, looking like he's most likely to stop that streak. Antonelli and Norris both complaining about blue flags and a lot of traffic in front of them. They have lapped everybody up to Pierre Gasly, and Gasly now moving out of the way of the race leaders. Yuki Tsunoda is next up for them. It's mad. They have already lapped everybody up to 10th place. Oh, and Lando Norris goes really deep at turn 11. Readjust and actually did well to not send that into the gravel there, Lando Norris, who was making his way through turn 11. Antonelli box. Antonelli box. So this is Lando Norris's real one and only opportunity. This needs to be the lap of Lando Norris's life. If he's going to get back to the lead of this Grand Prix, needs to be a good stop from Mercedes too. 2.8 seconds is much better this time around. George Russell also pits. They're double stacking at Mercedes. George Russell comes in behind. There goes Charles Leclerc. Disappears into the distance. So does Lewis Hamilton. There is an Audi. Is Antonelli going to come out in front of Piastri, though? Yes, he is. Is indeed. And actually, Antonelli's now going to be slowed down by Gabriel Bortoletto. Bortoletto is going to have to move because of the blue flags that are being waved at him, but Antonelli's still being slowed down by him a touch here as he goes through the first sector. Needs to be really good from Kimi Antonelli now. Antonelli is past Bortoletto. Let's see what he can do in this middle part of the lap. George Russell is now in 6th place, 8.6 seconds behind Oscar Piastri. And Antonelli did manage to come out in front of Oscar Piastri. Piastri now past Bortoleto in the back marker pack as well. George Russell catching up to the back of Arvid Lindblad. It's awkward for the Mercedes team. They've sort of pitted both of their drivers into a little bit of back marker traffic. Obviously, the blue flags will mean that they don't have to fight to get past, but Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc now fighting for second place. Hamilton on the radio. Hamilton saying on the radio, I'm quicker than Charles, my tyres are better. I knew it was coming. Everybody could have called it. Eventually, Lewis Hamilton was going to say that over the radio, and now Ferrari have got a very difficult choice to make. Hamilton is on the 1 stop, Charles Leclerc on the 2. Hamilton needs that clean air if he's going to keep the tyres in better condition. Hamilton also thinks he's got better overall time. We know that Lando Norris is going to have to pit at the end of this lap, really, to cover off Antonelli, or does he just keep going? Does Lando Norris back himself to go all the way to the end of the Grand Prix on this hard compound tyre? We've seen some very long stints in the sprint race yesterday on soft compound tyres, so why not go all the way on the hard compound tyre? Charles Leclerc on the radio. And Charles Leclerc not very happy at all. Does not want to follow the Ferrari instructions. George Russell and Charles Leclerc fighting for position. It feels like if Charles Leclerc were to pit now, does he come in? He does not. So Charles Leclerc was told to pit and he doesn't want to. Charles Leclerc continues on, also doesn't let Lewis Hamilton by either. So Ferrari in a little bit of an awkward spot where they had the tyres ready for Charles Leclerc. They asked Leclerc to box and Charles Leclerc continued on. Hamilton on the radio. We are losing time. Hamilton now getting frustrated as well. And this is where Ferrari have to make a big call. They either need to tell Lewis Hamilton to just accept the position and the fact that he's behind Charles Leclerc, or they need to try and convince Charles Leclerc to pit. It's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be awkward. Neither Ferrari driver is gonna be particularly happy with any decision that happens here. Charles Leclerc. Where would Leclerc come out if he pits now? He is 11 seconds off the lead, so add 20 to that. He would come out behind George Russell by a considerable margin, actually. Charles Leclerc being told on the radio, box, box once again as he enters the final sector. They go past the Aston Martin there of Fernando Alonso and Charles Leclerc now. Will he peel to the inside of the track as he comes around turn 14? Yes, he does. That releases Lewis Hamilton then. Hamilton up into second place. Hamilton will go to the end on these tyres though. Feels like the most likely thing to happen. Kimi Antonelli is 4.2 seconds. Oh, and a little bit slow from Charles Leclerc. 3.5 second stop. The left-hand side of the car just not quite getting into gear. And there's fighting for position as Charles Leclerc is going to come out of the pits. And unfortunately, he's going to be right in the mix of a Williams Racing Bulls battle. Charles Leclerc probably doesn't want to see Carlos Sainz and Arvid Lindblad fighting for position in front of him as he exits the pits, but that's what he's got to deal with. Hamilton on the radio. And Hamilton frustrated with the fact that Charles Leclerc wouldn't let him go. Is now released, but you would say a couple of laps later than Hamilton really wanted. And Charles Leclerc does get past Arvid Lindblad. Carlos Sainz will hopefully not cost him too much time either. Charles Leclerc moves past that midfield pack. They are fighting for possible points there. Lindblad and Sainz. Never know what could happen with Albon, Bortoleto, Alonso ahead. It's not time that they really want to lose. Piastri on the radio, box, box, and the McLaren engineers are out there. Race leader Lando Norris continues on. See what the gap is between Norris and Antonelli. 15.6 seconds, but Antonelli 0.9 of a second quicker last time around. Lando Norris hoping for a little bit of a miracle maybe at the end of the Grand Prix. Big tyre delta playing in his favour, or could just back himself to keep track position in front of Antonelli and try and go all the way to the end. Would be a hell of a strategy from Lando Norris if he was able to do it. Lando Norris also losing about a second a lap to Lewis Hamilton, actually. So Hamilton also closing in on the lead of this Grand Prix. Antonelli on the radio. I have no grip, says Kimi Antonelli. So not very happy on the hard compound tyre at all. That's not a good news for Kimi Antonelli because he shouldn't need to stop again. He's on hard compound tyres until the end of the Grand Prix, you would imagine. The current championship leader. Yuki Tsunoda comes into the pits now for Racing Bulls for his final stop. Tsunoda is on for some points here today. Yuki Tsunoda is going to come up behind Alonso. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, Alonso just comes around. There's Russell Albon. So Tsunoda has literally just got Alonso to deal with to get back inside of the point scoring positions. Hülkenberg and Gasly are just a little bit quicker than Yuki Tsunoda, you would say, today. Liam Lawson now under pressure from Oscar Piastri. Piastri isn't really going to have to do too much to get past. And Charles Leclerc has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Just goes to show those fresh tyres are such a big, big factor here in Zandvoort. So much quicker as soon as you're on fresh tyres. Alonso back in the points for now. For now, he is indeed. And to be fair, he'll probably go to the end on those tyres. Alonso on the one-stop strategy. Tsunoda, though, 10.7 seconds behind. Keep an eye on Yuki Tsunoda's lap times. Fernando Alonso doing a 1:17 dead last time around. Yuki Tsunoda now coming through the final sector. Keep an eye on what Yuki Tsunoda's lap time is like compared to Fernando. See which of those two will be most likely to get that final point scoring position. Antonelli is another lap for Lando Norris. Antonelli continues to close in on the front pack, but Antonelli a 1:15.7. Lando Norris is going to have a big tyre delta in his favour at the end of the Grand Prix. He's backing himself to make up more than this time. Once he gets a fresh set of, well, possibly hards. Go on to hards again, maybe mediums. Depends what Lando Norris has got available to him inside of that McLaren garage. And also how far he goes on this stint. Charles Leclerc, the quickest man of anybody in the final sector. George Russell has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, though. So 1:15.3 from George Russell. He is still 9 seconds adrift of his teammate, so Antonelli doesn't have to worry about George Russell too much at this point, you would say. And here comes Lando Norris. Will he box from the lead? He does. Lando Norris then pits from the lead of this Grand Prix. It's going to release Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Antonelli. Norris will come out in third place on the road. Crucial for them to get it right. They have indeed. There goes Lewis Hamilton. There goes Kimi Antonelli. And Lando Norris is going to have some running to do. Let's see what the gap is between Antonelli and Norris. I'm imagining it's going to be in and around the 8-9 second mark. No, only 6. Okay. Not as bad as I thought. It might be a little bit closer than I was anticipating. So Lando Norris has got a 6-second gap to close in on Kimi Antonelli. And Antonelli's got a 3-second gap to close in on Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be an electric end because Antonelli is going to have to dispatch Lewis Hamilton, and Hamilton's probably going to slow the Italian for a little while here. Lando Norris will be licking his lips at that opportunity to close in the seconds whilst those two battle for the lead. George Russell's now 4th. Charles Leclerc's in 5th, but going very quick indeed. Charles Leclerc with first driver into the 1:14s. He's 5.5 seconds adrift of George Russell as Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri's in 6th spot. Looks like he's a distance away from the top 5, though. The top 5 in a completely different stratosphere this time around. And Liam Lawson racing all by himself in 7th place. Nico Hülkenberg absolutely flying around in 8th position. Has a pit stop over Fernando Alonso. So Hülkenberg could pit and still come out in 8th place. He has been by far and away the best midfield driver on the track so far this afternoon. Hülkenberg continues on, though. Lewis Hamilton yet to stop again, and Antonelli is now 2 seconds behind. He was 0.6 of a second quicker on the last lap, Kimi Antonelli. So he's going to be within striking distance of Lewis Hamilton within the next couple of Grand Prix laps, you would say. But how long will it take him for Lewis Hamilton? Or how long will it take Antonelli for him to get past? And then Lando Norris has just set the fastest first sector of anybody. That 6-second gap that I was talking about between Antonelli and Norris, down to 3.7. Certainly is in for the chance for a win here and keeping the streak going of the winner being the guy who started on pole. Hasn't done it the easy way this afternoon, Lando Norris, if he does manage to get it. But we've still got 23 laps left to go. Tongue twister, though. Hamilton comes across the start-finish line to start lap 50. Antonelli closes in once again. And let's see what the delta is. It was only 0.4 of a second from Antonelli that time around, you know. Only 0.4 of a second. And actually, Lando Norris in the 1:14s. Lando Norris is flying. I'll tell you what. Lewis Hamilton asking on the radio what he needs to do. The debate over a new medium tyre. Is it going to be good for Lewis Hamilton to pit again? Or does he think he can hold on to that position? I mean, everybody behind him is flying in comparison. Lando Norris in particular is absolutely rapid on his fresh hard compound tyres. That 6-second gap that Norris had to Antonelli is down to 2 seconds already. And I know I said Antonelli might get held up by Hamilton. I think Lando Norris might be on the rear end of Antonelli before Antonelli gets to Hamilton at this rate. Lando Norris is absolutely flying inside of that McLaren car. The Mercedes power unit doing wonders for him there. Nico Hülkenberg is behind him, all the way down in 8th place. He's lining up very nicely for a little battle for the front three here in these last 22 laps. Let's see. Charles Leclerc comes across the start-finish line. Is 3.7 seconds behind George Russell. And he's in the 1:14s again. So Russell's going to be under pressure from Leclerc. Antonelli's going to be under pressure from Norris. The Mercedes duo, just a little hot under the collar at the moment, I would imagine. This top 5 will not be this order, you would imagine, by the end of the Grand Prix. Alex Albon pits. He's going to drop in. Yuki Tsunoda is up into 10th place, by the way. But Pierre Gasly is closing in on the back of the RB car. Actually, Fernando Alonso is not looking too bad here. Yuki Tsunoda isn't lapping ridiculously quicker. Tsunoda's on a scrubbed set of soft compound tyres, and Tsunoda and Gasly are going to cause each other a headache, which is going to play into Fernando Alonso's favour. It's going to be right towards the end of the race whether we see Fernando Alonso consolidate those points. And Antonelli on the radio has no rears, and Antonelli is struggling, and Lando Norris is there. Antonelli is now going to see Lando Norris filling his wing mirrors. Lando Norris within half a second of Kimi Antonelli ahead. Antonelli looks like he is really struggling on these tyres, and Lando Norris has come to life once again. Kimi Antonelli's not within a second of Hamilton as well, so has no boost available to him. Antonelli needs to close that gap if he wants to get the boost to try and defend from Lando Norris behind. Not sure it's going to do much. Lando Norris has just closed that 6-second gap within a ridiculous number of laps. Oscar Piastri on the radio being told that they believe the Ferrari team are going to go until the end of the race. So Hamilton ahead is not going to pit out of the way. Lando Norris and Kimi Antonelli need to get the move done on track if they can. But Antonelli also needs to defend from Lando Norris behind. They come through the final sector. Antonelli will be desperately in need of that boost to try and defend from Lando Norris. He is within a second of Lewis Hamilton. So Antonelli will get that extra boost of kilowatts down towards turn 1. Lando Norris then closes in, is going to use everything that he's got, you would imagine, inside of that McLaren car. Isn't able to get past Kimi Antonelli this time around. Maybe he's just waiting for another opportunity later in the lap. They get very close to one another, and Lewis Hamilton is now there as well. So Antonelli and Norris are right on the rear wing of Lewis Hamilton, and they're very close to one another too. the front three within a second of one another as we go through lap 53 of this Dutch Grand Prix. Lando Norris then gonna have to do it sooner rather than later. They're starting to catch some back markers as well. Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton's old teammate in the Cadillac, doing everything he can to get out of the way of the front three. Bottas peels to the inside, and they do indeed all go past. They're all within a second. Hamilton, Antonelli, Norris, our front three. Antonelli trying to close in on the lead of this Grand Prix once more. Hamilton has held onto his tyres as much as he possibly can, is on the one-stop strategy in the Ferrari car. Both stops completed for Antonelli and Norris. It is a straight run to the finish line for these three cars, and 20 laps still to go. Out of the final corner, Antonelli's going to be doing everything he can. Has a little look at Lewis Hamilton, but goes on the outside, Lando Norris. And Antonelli, by looking at Lewis Hamilton, has opened the door for Lando Norris to go by. And Lando Norris up into P2. Hamilton still in P1. Antonelli down to P3. Lando Norris with the opportunistic move. Antonelli had a little look at the Ferrari, and it just opened that tiny window for Lando Norris to roll around the outside. Now Lando Norris in the dirty air behind the Ferrari. Can he get past Lewis Hamilton and retake the lead of this Grand Prix? Come on, Lando. Please just get this done. Otherwise, Kimi Antonelli is there behind, and Antonelli is within striking distance still. Antonelli knows that a little mistake here or a fight between Hamilton and Norris will open the door. Lewis Hamilton goes a little bit wide though, and now has opened the door for Lando Norris down towards turn 11. He's going to sweep round and he's going to retake the lead. Lando Norris up into P1. Hamilton drops to P2 and Antonelli drops to P3. Lando Norris within the space of a lap goes from third to first and is leading the Dutch Grand Prix once again. There's a yellow flag that has just come out. It's Esteban Ocon's Haas car. Oh, and if this is a safety car, Kimi Antonelli now sweeps around the inside of Lewis Hamilton and actually makes it look very easy now that Lando Norris isn't there. But Esteban Ocon has stopped out on track just after turn 3. Antonelli up into P2 then. A safety car for Lewis Hamilton. Might play into his favour a little bit here, actually. It's a virtual safety car. Virtual safety car is called. Lando Norris, though, up into P1. You'd imagine Lewis Hamilton might be able to get to the pits, though. Hamilton now at turn 7. If they can stop under the virtual safety car, and to be fair, Esteban Ocon isn't out of the car yet. This could play into Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari hands here. Pit stop under the virtual safety car would play into their favour pretty nicely compared to Russell and Leclerc behind. Russell was just under pressure from Charles Leclerc, it has to be said. Leclerc was closing in that gap as much as we were focusing on the front three. Charles Leclerc was also absolutely flying behind. And Lewis Hamilton on the radio asking, why am I not coming in? How long do you want me to stay out? Could play into his favour, though, if the virtual safety car doesn't come to an end. Esteban Ocon's car is being moved as we speak, but Lewis Hamilton is coming around the final corner. If he can pit under the safety car, under the virtual safety car, he'll get fresh tyres, and we've seen that fresh tyres in this Grand Prix are worth their weight in gold. Yes, George Russell and Charles Leclerc are going to make their way by now, but it's a very swift stop from Ferrari. It's soft compound tyres on, and Charles Leclerc's coming in. Double stack for Ferrari. They think that the fresh tyres are well worth it, especially under the virtual safety car conditions. A little bit slower for Charles Leclerc because he was the second Ferrari car in. Hamilton, though, does come out of the pits with Russell ahead of him. Hamilton is on for a podium here. I'll tell you what, Charles Leclerc's not too far behind for a 4th spot either. Fresh set of soft compound tyres for Oscar Piastri. Makes sense for McLaren. They've got nothing really to lose with Oscar. Oscar's looking in a bit of a no man's land in P6, to be honest. And Liam Lawson down in 7th place as well. Surprised we haven't seen a few more stops under the virtual safety car. Hulkenberg comfortable in 8th place. Thought they might decide to come in. Hulkenberg did come in. Hulkenberg did come in. It's a good stop from Audi, actually. Hulkenberg's done really well and got himself a proper good position. And the correct move to come in and pit there for the Audi team, keeping that 8th place consolidated for this afternoon. The crane is only just now coming to Esteban Ocon's car. So we're still going to wait for the virtual safety car to come to an end. It's not going to be soon. The crane is not yet attached to Esteban Ocon's Haas car. Oh, it was a lovely, sumptuous move round the outside from Lando Norris. You could see Antonelli just hesitated a touch. Lando Norris just then took that opportunity to pounce. And Antonelli's come in. Antonelli has decided to pit under the virtual safety car conditions. So Antonelli has pitted. Virtual safety car stop for Kimi Antonelli. Clearly was not happy on those hard compound tyres. Interesting to see what he comes back out on. It's a soft compound tyre for Kimi Antonelli. George Russell then up into P2. Although Antonelli on much, much swifter tyres. 16 laps left and Esteban Ocon's car now being lifted. You'd say the virtual safety car is probably going to end before Lando Norris gets the opportunity to pit here. So I don't think Lando Norris will stop. Doesn't really need to. He's done 9 laps on those hard compound tyres. A couple of those under virtual safety car. So Lando Norris probably doesn't need to change. Lando Norris on the radio asking, and the virtual safety car is ending, and they're not going to get the opportunity to do so. So McLaren have left Lando Norris out. The problem is if they'd have gone in and pitted, then Antonelli wouldn't have. But because they didn't pit, Antonelli did. It's very well timed from Mercedes there, it has to be said. They've played that pretty perfectly. Lando Norris continues on. Is going to lead this Grand Prix. There is 16 laps left. And the roles are reversed. Antonelli now has the fresher tyres. Has 12 seconds of lap time to find, though. And Antonelli needs to be swift if he is going to try and get up close to Lando Norris once again. Lando Norris has been really good on the hard compound tyre, though. I think it's going to be tough for Antonelli to do so. First up for Antonelli, though, his teammate, George Russell. How much of a fight is Russell going to put up against his Mercedes teammate? The team orders will come in, I'd imagine, but George Russell is in a title fight here. He's trying his best to close the gap to Kimi Antonelli. Was able to close it by 3 points in the sprint race. He'd love another 3 points in his favour here. Let's see how Antonelli does. Lewis Hamilton has also pitted, by the way, for fresh softs. Let's see what Hamilton... Oh, no, sorry. Hamilton's scrub set of softs. Of course, he won't have any fresh left after sprint qualifying and qualifying. George Russell on the radio. And George Russell already getting his excuses done on the radio. Think about working as a team here. If Kimi is already out of the fight, and I think George Russell hoping that Kimi Antonelli's going to... Well, there's no way Kimi Antonelli's just going to let George Russell have this second place. Absolutely zero chance. There's more chance Kimi Antonelli wiping both Mercedes out than Kimi Antonelli taking some team orders and not having to go for second position. Goodness me. Hamilton on the fresh tyres for the soft as well. He's 2 points, 3 seconds behind Antonelli. Leclerc's behind as well. It's kind of awkward for the Ferraris. They've got quite a lot of work to do now. They need to get Charles Leclerc, who was fighting with George Russell, and it felt like was going to overtake George Russell for 4th place, what it was at the time. So if George Russell can get anywhere higher than 5th, he's doing a pretty good job. Russell, though, is on 18-lap-old hard compound tyres, was a second slower than Kimi Antonelli last lap. We've still got a fair distance to go. 14 laps of this Grand Prix. It's not like we're in the final 5 and George Russell's going to be holding on for a lap or 2. He's going to have to hold Kimi Antonelli back for 8 to 10 laps, you would imagine, in that Mercedes. It's whether or not Antonelli can also make up 12 seconds to Lando Norris. I'll tell you what, though, Lando Norris was only a tenth of a second slower than Antonelli last lap. I think Lando Norris has got this signed, sealed, and delivered for the McLaren team, and it's a second win in a row for Lando Norris. George Russell, Kimi Antonelli behind. Lewis Hamilton's currently running in 4th, Charles Leclerc 5th. Oscar Piastri and Liam Lawson in a little bit of a no man's land, let's face it. They're going to end up 6th and 7th. Nico Hulkenberg has consolidated 8th place for himself. Yuki Tsunoda's lost position to Pierre Gasly. Gasly closing in on the back of Fernando Alonso. Alonso on hard compound tyres going for the one-stop strategy. So Gasly and Tsunoda trying to stop Fernando Alonso from getting points and get points for themselves. Gasly's currently 10th, Tsunoda 11th. Lindblad then 13.5 seconds back after his penalty that he got right at the beginning of the Grand Prix. So Lindblad, no chance at points for him despite starting inside of the point scoring places. Bortoletto the same. So it is just whether Gasly can catch Alonso and then what Antonelli can do in 3rd place. The real talking points as we head into the final dozen laps of this Grand Prix. Kimi Antonelli going for it, has to be said. 14.7 from Antonelli, a 15.4 from George Russell. So another 7/10 of a second chomped out of George Russell. 14.4 from Lando Norris, though. Only 0.3 of a second quicker from... no, Lando Norris was 0.3 of a second quicker. Lando Norris still quicker than Kimi Antonelli. So Norris is going to disappear into the distance. Virtual safety car and pitting under the virtual safety car. Not actually playing into Kimi Antonelli's favour massively there. The hard compound tyre on Lando Norris's car looking scrumptious for the McLaren team. George Russell, 9.3 seconds off the lead. Kimi Antonelli, another 3.3 seconds back. Hamilton then 2.6 seconds adrift of the Italian. Charles Leclerc 5 seconds back from that as well. Piastri, 13.6 seconds back in P6. Liam Lawson, 24 seconds behind in 7th place. So keep an eye on Gasly and Antonelli. They're the two to be watching right now as we're on board with George Russell, looking at that gap between Russell and Antonelli slowly coming down. Antonelli comes across the start-finish line. Got that gap down to 3 seconds. Was 0.8 of a second quicker than George Russell that last lap. Closing in on the back of George Russell. Should be within touching distance within the next 3 or 4 laps, you would say. So it's going to be a good 7 laps, you would say. George Russell's going to be properly under pressure. It's going to have to deal with Antonelli on the soft compound tyre behind as well. Yellow flag infringement noted for Liam Lawson. That would be a shame. He is 40 seconds ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. I think even if he got a 10 or 20 second penalty, he'd be more than comfortably ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. Even if he got a drive through, he'd still be comfortably ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. So Lawson's all right in 7th. Gasly is now 1.9 seconds behind Alonso, was 0.3 of a second quicker last lap. Alonso's really going for it in that Aston Martin car. Alonso really going in this one-stop strategy. He's done a brilliant job to be able to gain as many places as he has. He's just been conservative and consistent. It's played in Fernando Alonso's favour massively. I think the one-stop strategy might have just about been the better, because you look at Lewis Hamilton's also ahead of Charles Leclerc as well. I know Hamilton stopped for a second time, hasn't he? Thought he was going to go, but he stopped under the virtual safety car, which made sense. Charles Leclerc then stopped again. I feel like maybe is a little bit of a mistake from him. Ferrari probably just didn't want to deal with Hamilton and Leclerc fighting with one another again, so they just pitted both of them. Really hasn't helped Charles Leclerc at all, to be honest. Lando Norris P1, George Russell P2. Tell you what, Antonelli is not closing in as quickly as I thought he might. He is still closing in, don't get me wrong. He's going to be right underneath George Russell's rear wing in about 2 laps' time. But I thought he'd be there already, to be honest. Lando Norris is brilliant. Lando Norris is... I'm just looking at Lando Norris's sector times. He's insane. He's absolutely on it. Lando Norris was 0.4 of a second quicker than Kimi Antonelli through the middle sector. good gracious. Antonelli, though, closing in on the back of his teammate once again. The gap is now down to 1.8 seconds. George Russell will be on the radio again, asking the team, let's play as a team, lads. Let's play as a team. Current vote for driver of the day. Lando Norris, 17%. Hamilton, 12%. Alonso, 11%. Nico Hülkenberg is being underrepresented here, ladies and gentlemen. Nico Hülkenberg has been my driver of the day. Stunning. Stunning. Look at how far away he is from the rest of the midfield pack. Just flying, Nico Hülkenberg. He's just taking it easy now. Lando Norris leads by 11.2 seconds. It's in the bag. Doesn't need to push that car too much now. It's whether or not Antonelli can get back past his teammate for second place. George Russell gained 3 points on his teammate yesterday during the sprint. If he loses this position, he'll lose those 3 points and we'll be back to where we started in terms of the Drivers' Championship battle between the two Mercedes cars. Lewis Hamilton, though, will lose a little bit more to both of the Mercedes drivers. Bottas boxed to retire the car. So Valtteri Bottas is slowly joining the list of retirements. 5 cars now have come to a stop. Max Verstappen on the first lap of this Grand Prix. Feels like a long time ago now, that red flag from Max Verstappen on turn 14 on the first lap. Behrman coming to a stop as we were getting back underway after that red flag. Stroll, Ocon and Bottas now with reliability issues of their own. 7 laps left to go once Lando Norris completes this one. Ooh, and George Russell being told, swap places. Will George Russell let his teammate by? Makes sense. Antonelli is on the swifter tyre. Antonelli is pitted. They're on different strategies. The team order has come. George Russell on the radio. Is Kimi Antonelli going to catch Norris? Is the rebuttal from George Russell. George Russell wants to know, is he letting Kimi Antonelli by just for the sake of it? Or has Kimi Antonelli got an actual chance at winning this Grand Prix? Let's see if he lets him pass down towards turn 1. Does no. No, does. Does for Kimi Antonelli. George Russell follows his instructions and the team have kind of given us I was hoping for a little battle there, unfortunately. But Antonelli has 11.5 seconds to make up to Lando Norris. Is it going to happen? Absolutely not. Antonelli only 0.2 of a second quicker. And George Russell now thinking about what's happening behind. And actually, George Russell is thinking about Lewis Hamilton and the fact that Hamilton is also gaining. George Russell doesn't have his teammate to help him defend now, and George Russell's going to lose out third place to Lewis Hamilton, you would say, and then Charles Leclerc is another 3.8 seconds behind. Maybe even Leclerc will be able to catch George Russell by the end, so Russell could fall all the way down to 5th by this time. I mean, he was running 5th effectively before the virtual safety car pit stops because Charles Leclerc was looking ready and raring to take 4th place from him. So it feels like Russell is just going to fall back to where he was before the virtual safety car anyway. But Hamilton on board, looking at the back of George Russell, his old Mercedes teammate, made the swap over to Ferrari last season. Oh, my goodness me. There's a Williams car of Alex Albon going really slowly, and that caught me out. Made me jump, let alone George Russell and Lewis Hamilton traveling at hundreds of miles an hour. I thought Alex Albon was going to get in the way there. He was right on the line that I was expecting Lewis Hamilton to take. Albon is going to limp that car back around, you'd imagine. I think Alex Albon might also join the pile of cars in the pit lane. Oh my goodness. It's getting very tense indeed between Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. It's going to be very tight between the two of them. Hamilton with the fresher tyres. The Ferrari has looked the better of the two as well. George Russell's pace compared to Hamilton just hasn't quite been there this afternoon. Hamilton's looked really good. Charles Leclerc as well has looked quicker than George Russell, and I think both of the Ferraris anticipating the opportunity to get past George Russell. Here goes Lewis Hamilton then. Is he close enough to the Mercedes? No, not really. Looks like he will get past, but it's going to take a couple of laps longer, and it's probably not going to allow Charles Leclerc the opportunity to recatch George Russell. So Russell could kind of feel a little bit positive about the fact that he would have probably lost 4th place to Charles Leclerc had the virtual safety car not happened, but actually might hold on to 4th place now. And actually, Carlos Sainz coming into the pits for the Williams team as well. He's coming back out, though, Carlos Sainz. And Alex Albon has continued, by the looks of things. So, whatever happened to Alex Albon, maybe it was blue flags and he was getting out of the way. Didn't do a good job of getting out of the way, if he was. Looked like he was right in the way. Pierre Gasly within 0.5 seconds of Fernando Alonso as well for the Fernando Alonso versus Gasly watchers. Alonso looks like he's on for a point scoring finish, though. Yuki Tsunoda really struggling on the soft compound tyres. Antonelli, there's something wrong with the car. It's like aero degradation, says Kimi Antonelli. Not very happy at all. Down to turn 1 we go. Will Lewis Hamilton make the move to the inside? Yes, he does. Has he got enough room? Not this time around. George Russell holds on. Hamilton just trying to nudge his nose in the way of George Russell and let him know that he's there, but Russell holds on to 3rd place for now. And there will be a proper fight. A little bit of debris on the track, just at turn 7 there. Yellow and red flag for slippery surface. Colapinto with a 10-second penalty and all of that as well. Hamilton now having a little look through turn 10, trying to get a little launch possibly towards turn 11. We know that he's got a little bit of extra boost as well. Russell's going to cover the inside. Hamilton, though, is going to have to follow through the final sector. Whilst they squabble, it has allowed Charles Leclerc to close that gap a little bit. They've only got 2 laps left, or 3 laps left, sorry, for Charles Leclerc to make a move on George Russell as well, or maybe even Lewis Hamilton, his teammate. Hamilton needs to do it sooner rather than later, and then there's a virtual safety car. Virtual safety car is out. Is it for that debris that we just saw? Albon comes into the pits. Virtual safety car is called, so that gives Ferrari 1 less lap. And it does look like, yeah, it's going to be a bit of debris out on track. Liam Lawson with a 10-second time penalty is not going to do anything. Oh, as the marshals not quite able to effectively pick up the scraps there. Oh, and it was the 2 Williamses. Williams on Williams action. Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon actually came to blows. That's why Alex Albon was going slowly. He's lost a good chunk of his floor. So Sainz and Albon both signed contracts with Williams this week. But they are, unfortunately, coming to blows already. Here we go. George Russell under pressure from Lewis Hamilton once again. That virtual safety car's really helped George Russell, has to be said. Hamilton's just going to have to lunge probably on the final lap of the Grand Prix because he's not within touching distance now. Hamilton's going to have to get those soft compound tyres back to working condition, and that little bit of clean air that George Russell's got in front of him is just going to benefit a touch as we exited the virtual safety car. Hamilton 1 lap left then for his opportunity down towards turn 1. Unless he's going to try and make a move somewhere else. Could end up with a Russell podium here. It would mean that the title would be exactly where it was at the start of the weekend. George Russell would gain 3 points in the sprint, lose 3 points in the race, in the Grand Prix. So he'd just be back to where we were. But Russell would gain a couple of points on Hamilton unless Hamilton is able to make his move past. Hamilton versus Russell, the battle for second place in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. And Lewis Hamilton is following along. Carlos Sainz with a 10-second time penalty for that collision with his teammate, causing a collision with Alex Albon. Doesn't really mean much. Albon has joined the pile of cars in the pit lane. Here comes the final lap then. Lando Norris, absolute domination since he's taken the lead of this Grand Prix. But let's have a look what's going to happen for third place here. Hamilton right behind the Mercedes of Russell. Is he going to have a little look to the inside? Russell goes. Hamilton's not close enough. Hamilton is not going to be able to get past through turn 1. To turn 2 they go. Running out of corners now, Lewis. Only 14 corners at Zandvoort. They've gone through turn 13. You'd think the final striking attempt will be down into turn 11 from Lewis Hamilton. But George Russell's escaping away from the Ferrari. In fact, it's Charles Leclerc who has a little look at his teammate. And Charles Leclerc nearly hits into the back of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton clearly with some kind of deployment problem, it seems, because he is falling away from the back of George Russell. And maybe just trying to hold on to a little bit of extra battery. But Charles Leclerc nearly collects the rear end of his teammate. Russell, though, looking for that final podium place. They come through turn 11 now, and Hamilton's not within touching distance. It's going to be third place for George Russell. Lando Norris takes the win, though, and it's 2 wins in a row for the McLaren man. It's just a shame that the opportunity of closing in the championship is not going to be massive, as Kimi Antonelli is going to take second place and elongate his lead from Russell and Hamilton behind. Russell takes third, Hamilton fourth, Charles Leclerc fifth. And the Ferrari's getting very close at the end there. Oscar Piastri is coming around the final corner. He's going to take sixth place. I'll tell you what, Fernando Alonso is held on to ninth place in an Aston Martin. We were saying on the pre-race stream earlier, like Alonso and Aston Martin, the ability for them to get sort of 10 points to catch up to the likes of Williams seems absolutely mental. Couple of points in the bag for Fernando Alonso today. Gasly takes 10th. He gets 1 point for the Alpine team. And Liam Lawson, obviously, in the fight for best of the rest in the championship. Then Gasly. Tsunoda comes home 11th. Lindblad behind him in 12th. Neither of the Racing Bulls cars in the points, which I would not have expected coming into this weekend. Bortoleto, Colapinto, Perez and Sainz then finished the Grand Prix behind. Albon, Bottas, Ocon, Stroll, Behrman and Verstappen dropped out of the Grand Prix. They were out overall. And my goodness me. Woof. What an end to the Grand Prix it was. Wow. It wasn't easy. It was not easy for Lando Norris to win from pole position. Usually when you say, oh, they won from pole, it's like, oh, okay, they started from pole position. They went all the way around and they got it done easily. Not at all easy. Oops, sorry, I just realized I got rid of the chat. Not at all easy for any of the cars involved today. It's been a real tough one. Where's my chat? Why is it not working? There we go. No? God knows. That is the final Dutch Grand Prix then. There you go. The final Dutch Grand Prix. The track will be off the calendar for now. I'm assuming it probably won't come back, if I'm honest with you. Just doesn't have the same monetary value to Formula One. It's a shame because it's a really good circuit. Not for racing, but a really good circuit for atmosphere. Obviously, Max Verstappen, a huge pull for Formula One. It's always sold out, but it's just not the biggest of tracks. Doesn't sell that many tickets, and therefore, even though it's sold out, it doesn't make that much money. And Formula One will likely not be back in Zandvoort anytime soon. Very quickly, I'm going to point you all towards the race rankings. Oops. Quickly grab it. Lando Norris, though, in a league of his own. Lando Norris has probably been, I was going to say, he's getting towards being the second or third best driver on the, he's probably the third best driver on the grid from the first half of the season, in my opinion. Can't remember where I actually ranked him. I think it was third. He's getting closer and closer to Lewis Hamilton, and I reckon he could be like closing in on the top spots of the championship. Wouldn't surprise me if Lando Norris comes like third in the championship or something. Like, just does something a little bit special. But we'll have to wait and see. Lando Norris, for now, takes his second win at the Dutch Grand Prix and wins in the McLaren car. Closes that gap in terms of the championship, but we do still have Kimi Antonelli leading it by a considerable distance. Shall we have a little look at the championship just before we go? Bum. Haven't got it loaded up. Great work. Let's have a little gander. Boop. Oops. What on earth have I just done? Oh no, it's there. Here we go. Open. So, the championship after today's Grand Prix. It's an interesting one. Obviously, as I said, we saw George Russell close in by 3 points in the sprint. Now loses those 3 points once again. So, George Russell stays where he was, but gains on Lewis Hamilton and actually jumps Hamilton in the standings despite being on the same points on countback. So 183 points for George Russell, jumps in front of Lewis Hamilton. Lando Norris, as I say, wouldn't surprise me if he can maybe sneak a third place in the championship. Maybe even higher, because actually they're on the same points. Maybe even a second place in the championship, Lando Norris. 25 points for him, puts him on 159, moves him ahead of Charles Leclerc for the season so far. And considering where the Ferrari has been, I suppose Charles Leclerc has had a pretty up and down first half of the season, but Lando Norris there in 4th spot. Max Verstappen stays 6th. Oscar Piastri stays 7th. Then we've got Liam Lawson moving up in front of Pierre Gasly once again. Obviously, he has the benefit of being in a Red Bull for a weekend and picking up 6 points there. So Lawson onto 49 points for the season. Gasly 44. Lindblad, Colapinto, Behrman, Bortoletto stay where they are because they have not scored points this weekend. Big swing for Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg moves up 3 places. Three places with 4 points. So Hülkenberg up into P15. Carlos Sainz goes down to 16th. Albon drops down to 17th as well. Crazy to me that Carlos Sainz has scored 6 points. Don't know where they've come from. Ridiculous. Esteban Ocon also drops down a place. He goes to 18th. Fernando Alonso stays 19th, but gets another couple of points on the board, goes even with Esteban Ocon in terms of his points so far this season. Yuki Tsunoda has a better finish than Stroll, Bottas, and Perez, who actually enters the championship in 20th place. Lance Stroll 21st, Bottas 22nd, and Sergio Perez drops down to 23rd. And then we have the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes still leading, no changes whatsoever beyond that. We have Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull behind in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Then Racing Bull still best of the rest. Alpine gain a point on them, but not a position. They're 3 points adrift of the Racing Bulls team. Haas on 21. Audi gained 4 points, get closer and closer to that Haas team. I think Audi have been better than Haas throughout the majority of the season. Obviously, Haas were just brilliant in the first 2 Grand Prix. So Audi up in 8th place will likely become 7th sooner rather than later. Then Williams on 11 points. And I said before the stream started, what's the likelihood of Aston Martin getting 10 points and getting a place in the constructor standings to Williams? I said almost 0. Well, Fernando Alonso, he does deal miracles. He's got a couple of points in that Aston Martin car. An absolutely ridiculous drive from him. He then gets them up to 3 points in total. Still a long way to go. 8 points, the gap between Williams and Aston Martin, but you never know. Maybe some people out there are starting to believe. Monza is up next in a couple of weekends' time. Of course, I'll be looking for your race ratings. In fact, I'll try and put that live as soon as possible for the end of the Grand Prix. Make sure you get your ratings in. We do look at those and assess them all at the end of the season, where we look at everyone's ratings from 0 to 10. And then that was actually a really good race. Do I want to say Lando Norris can get in the championship battle? It's still a long way to go, and it's only a 7-point swing from Antonelli. I'm starting to believe, though. Lando Norris just looks so good in that McLaren car. So quick today. I do think that's still the third fastest car kind of overall. And I do think it's been a nice couple of tracks for Lando Norris, like Hungary and Zandvoort. We'll see in Monza. We'll see in Monza. If Monza, they can do something a little spectacular. If Lando Norris is within touching distance of winning again, or maybe gets a third win on the bounce, then we'll start talking. But for now, it's a Lando Norris victory, the final Zandvoort Grand Prix for a little while. Antonelli takes second. George Russell rounds out the podium for Mercedes. 2 Ferrari cars behind. Piastri, Lawson in 6th and 7th. Hulkenberg best of the rest in 8th. Fernando Alonso takes a couple of points for Aston Martin. Pierre Gasly stays in 10th. Thank you guys so much for watching. Massively appreciate it. And I will let you celebrate the podium with Lando Norris and see you all for the next race in Monza in 2 weeks' time. Well, I'm sure we'll be able to get a couple of streams and a few videos in between those. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for everybody subscribed on Twitch as well. That was absolutely amazing. Huge number of subscribers on YouTube today too. Trying to hit 200,000 before the end of the season. Thank you again. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.